हेलो माइक को पास रख लेते हैं. Cool. I open a little early here, just making sure everything is on the up and up. Let's open chat for everyone. How is everyone doing today? GM. I'm good. How are you guys? Good. That is great to know. Let's see. Today's topic. Good question. This is today's topic. Mostly this week is going to be sort of high level things, something more than education. So might feel a little boring, less study, more alphas. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Dhanush said it. So basically going to be a bunch of alphas, how to get jobs, all that jazz. So I am unsure what impact this can create, what you can learn from my journey, but I've tried to keep it very comprehensive, as in questions that are asked, DSA, how much you need, all that jazz. Specifically very focused on getting jobs. That's what this week is going to be. Cool. I'm going to wait for 2 to 3 more minutes and then we will start. Cool. We will do testing. I agree. Tips to win the Solana hackathon. Focus a lot on your problem statement. Oh, is my voice breaking or can you guys hear me? Hello. Mic testing. It's fine. Okay. Web 3 roadmap part 2. Most probably I'm thinking of doing it for Solana. I'm just not getting the time. As soon as I get it, I've not started anything yet. Don't worry. It was just chatting. Crystal clear voice. That is good. And hopefully that is the case on the website as well. Let me confirm that really quickly. Focus. All right. Looks legit. So basically today's class is going to be probably fun for you guys to, one, get a lot of motivation, to understand. We'll get to it when we get to it. Tab tak, any questions before that? How to find open source organizations for contributions? So I'm going to give a list basically at the end of the cohort. We will do 2 to 3, maybe 1 GSOC and maybe 1 or 2 real jobs valley websites or companies, and then I'll give a list at the very end, and I would try to segregate batch 1 go into this, batch 2 go into this, so everyone doesn't clash. That's the high level idea at the moment. That is the best I can do. Baki, how to find is a good question, and the answer I've repeated many times, which is you listen to funding announcements, and that is also something we're going to discuss tomorrow, where I'm going to tell basically how a lot of companies, what is this one path that I've found towards finding opportunities in a bunch of companies. That's what we will discuss tomorrow, but mota yahi hai. All right. Funding announcement websites. It comes on my Twitter. TechCrunch is there, but there won't be as many announcements. So yeah, Crunchbase, TechCrunch, and then a bunch of news outlets, and then Twitter is where it usually comes for me. So Solana Hackathon, I was just saying you have to pitch very well. That matters much more than your project matters as well, but your pitch matters as well. What are you building? How big is this going to be? Why is this only possible on Solana? All these things sort of matter. So that's the only thing I would keep in mind. That don't focus too much on the technical parts. That's golden rule for any hackathon. All right. So bas high level pe hai. I think Zoom is okay. So I'm just going to kill the stream and then just record locally. And let me just delete the Discord message. All right. Cool. So yahi tha. We have a long class ahead. Pretty chill. So we'll keep it casual. We'll keep it two-sided maybe. High level of this week is going to be understanding, one, my journey of how I started freelancing, Upwork, remote jobs. 2, what are the salary bands in freelancing? Importance of data structures and algorithms, the exact interview questions that are asked. That is going to be today. Tomorrow, so today's focused heavily on freelancing and talent networks. Tomorrow will be focused a lot on full-time remote jobs. for example, my current job or jobs that are less inconsistent may not pay, 500K. Well, actually, those are the jobs that actually pay 500K. But getting into real jobs, how can you approach them right now? If you've followed the course up until now to the very end, you understand everything. What would I do if I was in your shoes, finding that first offer, which someone asked a very nice question here. Fastest way to get a 6 to 12 lakh per annum offer. इसका answer I'm happy to give tomorrow, but the short answer is do everything we've covered until now, and then tomorrow the companies that I'm telling you about, approach them and tell them I'm going to charge 30K US dollars per annum, which is 24 lakh Indian rupees. उससे कम भी मत बोलना, because that seems a little too low. And that should be your starting point. That's the short answer. बाकी we'll discuss more tomorrow. ठीक है? Happy to take questions at the end, but Abhishek's question looks pretty good, so I'll answer that and then we'll proceed. The question is, companies are straight away rejecting. What are the things which can catch their eyes? If their code base is open sourcing it. If their code base is not open source, the way you approach matters a lot. A lot of people approach me as if Twitter and other places. What sticks out to me is, one, if they've done some work already and shown me, I made this does this, and that impresses me, then of course your chances of getting a job are higher, or like at least getting an interview are higher. Versus there's a very student mindset in Indian or like general janta I've seen when they're approaching for jobs. Hey, I really need a job, or hey, I'm just starting out but would love to contribute even if it's for free. That's not the right way to go about it. The right way to go about it is, I can provide this value and these are my credentials and this is something you can look at that I built. I'm very proficient in this stack and my expectation is 30K US dollars. Not too little, not too much, somewhere in the middle. This is the number. This is the pitch that you should have when you're approaching anyone. Who you should approach, we will cover tomorrow. The list of companies that I think you should approach, but that's the high level pitch. Okay? We'll keep it short and sweet. I don't want to take too much of your all's time. Cover everything and then open up for questions. That's what today is going to be. 7:05, I think, is a good point to start. So, hi everyone. Going to repeat what I was repeating for the past 5 minutes, which is week 17 is just going to be, it's not going to be educational. It is going to be, if you have done everything until this point, which means the MERN stack and a bunch of extra things very well, how should you approach people for jobs, freelancing platforms for jobs, clients for general jobs? What's the path to take to now actually apply your skills? Few prerequisites to keep in mind before you take any of this to heart is, you should first complete the things that we've done until now. You should second, make sure you did it in a non-tutorial hell way, which means you are actually able to code it. It's not like you just looked at me coding. You've actually done all the assignments and you've started to code things yourself. If something was not covered right now, you're like, okay, I'll go out there and cover it. Try to learn it myself. You've scrambled through resources. If you've done all of this, then you're at a good point to start to approach companies. I did all of this until 2020, where I spent a lot of time learning the MERN stack, other things, DSA. I was pretty good at all of that. Then I started approaching people. So this is the journey from there. If you've not covered the journey until now, first make sure you cover that journey. And very actionable advice there is, if you're overwhelmed with too many things, please at least go through all of these videos. We've posted them on Discord. These are the very important ones. There's some extra things we covered, which you don't have to right now. If you want to, you can. These are the important ones. These you should definitely cover before next week, so that next week onwards, when you start contributing, you're not overwhelmed. The only thing that overwhelms you is the context of the code base and not the technologies that are being used. So before next week, complete all of these videos, all this knowledge that we're going to share today and tomorrow. Apply that after you've done all of this. With that, let's get right into it. We'll have 2 days. 17.1 is today. Today, we're going to cover my journey, which means how I started, where I started, what was my first salary, what was my last salary, how many jobs did I do, full trajectory. I'm going to share what was my role there, what did I do, and what were the interview questions, more importantly, that got me in. Because once you get in a company, I'm sure you'll figure it out. The thing to answer today is how you get that interview, what do you do in the interview, what is asked in the interview, and how do you get in. All right, that's what we'll focus on. Tomorrow, I'm going to basically share the blueprint that a brother of mine took and got a job recently. He's in college, third year Manipal, got a 20 LP offer at a company. It was a very specific path I told him to take, and that got him the offer. If this is a range you are looking for right now, which is 20 LPA, if you don't already make more than that, then what you should do, if you already make more than 20, 30 LPA, if your goal is, much bigger things, then today's class is more important for you. Tomorrow's class is important if you're just starting out and you want that first 20, 30 LPA remote offer and go from there. Okay? Let's get right into today's class. What I did to start freelancing. Okay. This is part one. What I would do today. This is part. So today, we will discuss why I had to start to freelance. What was my starting journey, and then I've talked about this. I think I'm repeating myself at this point. So let's get into 2020. Okay, 2018 I have graduated. 2018 to 2020, I've done standard jobs. I have been very privileged. I went to an IT, so I got a good, decent offer, 30 LP offer initially. One thing you should keep in mind is I did not learn anything in my 30 LP offer at Goldman, and this is probably one of the worst employees there. My ratings there were beach valley, which is like not exceeds expectations, not below expectations. I always met expectations. My bonuses reflected that. I learned very specific Goldman languages there. None of what I did in that 1.5 years helped me after it. A few things I did before that in college did. My GSOC did help, a lot of knowledge. JavaScript, I knew a little bit. React was just starting as a thing, so I was learning it, but I could build backends pretty good until that point. None of the things that I learned at Goldman helped me after this. So if you did not go to a big company yet, if you don't have a 30 LP offer already, you don't have to worry about it. Other thing to keep in mind is from 2020 onwards, no one has asked me about my college. No one has asked me how much CGPA was. Only things that people have asked are, can you show me what you have done, and can you do that for my company? That is the only thing remote companies care about. कि हाँ तुम आके apply कितना अपनी knowledge को कर सकते हो. They want you to come and apply your knowledge. They could not care less about your degree, your CGPA. These are the two things, or like your gap is the third thing that people worry about. What if I have a gap year? You don't have to worry about if you have a gap year, because again, that is something companies don't ask for. The interview process is fairly quick. Okay? What was the situation for me? 2020 January, I had left Goldman. I had not exactly left it. January se leke March tak, I was on a medical leave. So I had this time to figure out what to do next. I had no other job offers in hand. I could apply to companies. Thankfully, COVID had not hit by then. March mein COVID hit. So I could have done the standard route of, let's go for Google, let's go for Microsoft or like some other company. Or I could do this other thing, which was very niche back then, which was freelancing. Freelancing boomed after March, April 2020, after COVID came. Before that, it was pretty niche. Not a lot of people in India would do it. This was my first offer. This I got through a talent network. What are talent networks? Talent networks are TopTal, Brain Trust. एक और है, क्या नाम है उसका? There are a few. I will name more जो उनको छोड़ के मुझे पता है. Gigster is one. So Gigster, TopTal, Brain Trust are three. This was one of those talent networks that I was able to get into. I will discuss the interview process later on when we get to that part. But I got into a talent network, and first week itself, I started pricing myself very high. $50 I started, $40 I started. The people over there told me this is too much. You're just starting out. So I went down to 30. That was my first offer. It was fairly humble. $30 an hour is 3.5 lakh rupees a month. It was more than what I was making in Goldman. So I took it. And if you translate it to US dollars, it's 60K US dollars. This is my very first payment. March 2025. It comes after 15 days. So I worked from March 10th is when I started working. March 15th is when the first payment hit, and then so on and so forth. It used to be around $5,000 a month, which back then dollar was at 73 or something like that. So it used to be 3.5 lakh rupees. Big learnings here from my first job. People keep saying DSA does not matter. I might have said it at some point. This is the one time I realized how much DSA ended up mattering. Why? Because these guys, one of these talent networks, had a very grueling interview. TopTal ka, I can share that their interview process is public, so I can share that. Their interview process is one DSA round, one take-home assignment, and one SR type round. That's their high-level interview process. So one of these talent networks, the one that I joined, this specific one that was paying me, their interview, the very first interview was data structures and algorithms. It was pretty solid DSA. It was a DSA that Indians began to learn. There is a DSA that's asked in FANG that's like fairly standard, straightforward. Not straightforward, still pretty difficult. But this one was like, okay, thank goodness in college I did DSA. Thank goodness I prepared for ICPC. Thank goodness I've done lead code courses, because the thing is, these small things that might happen in your life. Your first remote offer might have butterfly effect later on. This would not have happened. I probably would have had to either go back to Goldman or would have had to go uh, sorry, one second. Yeah, go back to Goldman or would have had to join like a Google or a Facebook. So if I did not do DSA, I was pretty much, my trajectory would have been something else. So जो भी कोई भी कहे, always keep in mind DSA does end up mattering. I will share one of the questions, or like sort of the difficulty level of the questions, but the questions are difficult. The time that you get for questions are not, it's not too much. I think it's 15 minutes per question. Pretty grueling. So DSA does matter, especially in talent networks. It matters. Talent networks, which is like top talent Gigster. It also matters in sometimes in remote companies. Sometimes my remote company, none of them have asked me for DSA, but they could have. Totally हो सकता है, क्योंकि now that I hire, I know sometimes for junior engineers we do keep that as a criteria कि चलो let's make sure he can do a few lead code problems. ठीक है? That's one. Two, talent networks are blessing. मेरे लिए, if you actually go through this talent networks dashboard of mine, there is a stark trajectory. Basically, every week was filled, every month was filled, every month I got paid something here. So it is underrated. People keep saying that talent networks are not popular, they're bad, बीच में पैसा खाते हैं. They almost take, if you're charging them X, the talent network is most probably taking X, basically charging 2X to the client. So if your price is $30 an hour, your end client is paying $60 an hour, and beach mein 50% is going to the talent network. But it is fine. I don't think it matters at all, because it is very difficult for you to approach that company directly. Shuru mein, when you don't have a lot of good English skills, when you don't have remote job on your resume, it's very hard for you to, approach someone directly. So talent network, if it sits in the middle, even if it takes a fee, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Take a few jobs and then later on think कि हाँ मुझे खुद करना है. I want to approach clients myself. तो नाम मैंने 3 दे दिए हैं. इसको छोड़ के there is one more that is very famous that I'm forgetting the name of. These are the 4 good talent networks, which the reason it's called a network is because you have one interview to get inside this network. Then you're always in that network, and then there are job opportunities that keep coming in that network, and then you apply to them. So it's like, other than the fact that they give you jobs, it's also a very good network to talk to people. A lot of things about taxes I learned from being in these networks, because there are India groups there where people talk about how are you guys doing taxes. If it's less than 50 lakhs, how do you pay? More than 50 lakhs, how do you pay? Do you have a company here, Bahar? How do you get money into India? All these questions are answered very well there. Also, people are fairly smart there. Like the founder of Redux is part of one of these networks. He also gets hired through one of these networks. So pretty solid place to be if you want to talk to like high value people. ठीक है? Focus on the long term full time clients initially. ये बहुत बड़ी चीज है. तो one big mistake people do initially is कि Fiverr पे चले गए and took a $50 gig or went to Upwork and took like a $100 gig. The problem there is your motivation will be very low because you're getting erratic jobs, which is like उससे बेहतर है मत करो. Don't do it. First focus on getting a full time job. Then you'll realize, one, the stability that comes with it. कि हाँ ठीक है, I am working remotely, I am staying in my house, it's been more than 3 months and I'm getting paid. That stability is important for you to take that step of leaving your full-time Bangalore job, or like if you're in college, so if you're having a placement, leaving that for a remote job, you need a full-time commitment. So focus on getting the full-time commitment. What are the paths there? Either get into a talent network, or the thing that I'll talk about tomorrow, focus on that to like apply for a job. For the first few months, go very hard and over deliver. ये वैसे true है for every remote job. As you grow old, you sort of become complacent. But initially, when you're starting out, when you join a company, over deliver. Why? Because you're in India, they're over there. It takes them 1 second to fire you. First few months is when the company is, constantly evaluating whether or not you're putting in your 8 hours. They have no other way to know कि हाँ India में बैठ के you're working or not, कि तुम एक नौकरी कर रहे हो कि 5. They don't know. They don't know if you're working 1 job or you're working 5 jobs. They don't know if you're chilling. The thing about office jobs is you can have an office job as long as you go to the office, your boss is happy, even if you work less. But about in remote jobs, there's no such thing. So you are not really expected to go to the office, but there is a constant check on your final output to make sure your final output is very high. Does not mean you have to put in crazy hours. Does mean you have to over deliver. If they ask you to do X, do that in 1 day. If it would have taken 2 days initially, which means thoda sa put in extra hours. If your job is 8 hours a day, work 10 hours a day initially, and then after 3-4 months, be the solid guy there. And then uske baad the thing is you have that job becomes your retirement plan. If in a remote job, in a good company which has a lot of money, you can portray कि हाँ you're very good in the first few months. Then even if you're complacent later on, you are fine because they know कि you're a good engineer and you're getting paid much lesser than your US counterparts, not much lesser, but like definitely lesser. They'll keep you either way. So initially work a lot, eventually feel free to be complacent, feel free to take to jobs, all that jazz. Take care. All right. At this point, I would also urge you to go through one video on my channel, which is how I got my first 100K offer or ATLPA offer, which basically talks about one of these videos. So let's see. Sorry, one of these offers that I got. It is this video right here. So please try to go through this video. This will basically tell you the importance of overworking and over delivering, and how in this company, the first 3 months I was promoted and, became a big one, a very integral part of the team too, got promoted. 3, my offer crossed 6 figures for the first time, 100K US dollars. It did because I was overperforming really bad over there. Okay, cool. March 2020 I started. March से लेके March, April, May, June, July, even August and September tak. This was the only client I was working with. Initially, find a full-time gig, take that as a blessing. Don't work too much, too many places. Don't try to be like, okay, up to I've $5,000 a month. Let's make it 10,000. Let's get another job. For the first few months, maybe just try to stick to it. First job, try to over deliver there. Make sure you're doing very well. That's what I did. Everyone's journey is different, but this is what I did, I think this is fair. If you're just starting out, go very deep and become like a very solid engineer in that company. That's what I did. And you can see the same $5,000 hit my bank account for a really long time until October of 2020, which is when I was like, okay, now I need some hedging also, because I could see this client's project was ending, and 2, I could find other opportunities on the same talent network for like less 20 hours a week. So I started doing 60 hours a week on this specific freelancing platform. And then payments sort of increased. The original client went down a little, 20 hours, and then I was doing 2 20-hour jobs. Things changed a little after 6 months. First 6 months, I was consistently getting $5,000. That is what I was happy with. I did not, look out too much. After that comes the rest of the journey. So I don't know if you guys can you guys see this? Is this thing clear? The map, can you guys read a little bit? No, alrighty. Good thing I asked. All right. Okay. I hope you guys can read this. March 2020, 7 months until September 2020, only one job. Oh, you guys can read this, right? A few people are raising hands. All right. Thank you. Okay, name all the talent networks. Gigster, TopTal, Use Brain Trust. These are the 3 that I've sort of been part of. So I'm in all 3 of them. There are more. Some of them are a fad. Some of them are pretty good. Okay? All right. 7 months, one job. After 7 months, it's time to switch. Why? 1, hedging. Remote work can be a little unstable. 2, I could see one of these, my $5,000 original client was ending towards that project. So let go that happens very well in talent networks. You are hired for some time. You're usually not a full-time employee. You're hired for a few months, and you're not let go, but like their project ends, so they let you go, and then you find another project. That's very common. Nothing to be worried about. It's as soon as my one engagement would end, I would start the next one. And the good thing about talent networks is between engagements, you can increase your price drastically. So if you look at September 2020, I basically made sure I have 2 consistent sources of income now. One was the talent network, where I started from 30. I was 30 for the first client. Second client, I increased it to 50, 60, 100. In the next 1 year, my hourly price on the talent networks went up from $30 an hour to $100 an hour. This is not Upwork yet. Upwork we will talk about later. This is just talent networks. And I also got a first full-time job. This is the YouTube video that I was showing you. September 2020, after 6 months of working on through talent networks, I was like, okay, let's get a real full-time job. How did I get this job? You can go through the video. The short answer is on Twitter. On Twitter, someone said we're looking for A-frame engineers. A-frame is, so don't go and start learning how to do A-frame projects. It's not a thing today. No one uses A-frame today. Back then, people used to. A-frame is like a 3D visualization library that I had worked with in college. And then this company was building something in A-frame. and they were like, we're looking for engineers. Not a lot of people did A-frame, so that basically gave me an edge. I talked to the person, asked, so I knew I was making like between two jobs, I'm making $5,000 a month, like 60K US dollars I could make. So I asked for 70, maybe slightly less than that. Somewhere in that range I asked. You can go to the video and check it out. But I think the final answer final thing they approved or were happy with was 72K US dollars or $6,000 a month. That was this one good source of income that started and continued for a year. साथ में I had this other source of income. So these two were my primary sources of income from September 2020 to September 2021. This one originally was 72K, within 3 months became 100K, and that's where it stayed. When I was leaving, because I was leaving, they offered me much more, which is like 180K. They said, please take 180K and stay, but I had the 500K offer after this, so I was like, no, thank you. So one other thing to know here is that in remote jobs, if you're a good engineer, which I'm hoping a lot of you will be, you are very important. You become very important very quickly. But at the same time, companies' job hai to squeeze people and like save on resources and give people just enough that they're happy with. A lot of times you have to like go out, find other offers, and then be like, oh, I have this other offer, and then they'll increase your offer, which is not the best thing in the world. But if you're a solid engineer, उस दिन उनकी औकात पता चलेगी. You'll suddenly realize that they were underpaying you so much, which was the case here, right? I was working really hard in this company. I knew everyone else was US counterparts, so I knew they were making 150K, 200K, whatever, and I was the one who was performing the best. I was still at 100K. I finally had to fish out for other offers, and then when I was finally said I'm leaving, is when they said no, take 180K. So if you're a solid engineer, there's always scope for improvement. Companies will squeeze you, but you are working from India, you save taxes a certain way, and you live in a cheaper country, so it's not the worst thing to have 100K. But there's always scope for improvement. You're still one of the lower paid employees if you're working in one of these companies. Why? Because you're from India. India's a cheaper country. All that jazz. So it's like cheaper country and cheaper to buy things here. And since it's cheaper to buy things here, it's expected for them to pay you little less. But this is still much more than like the FANG disparity or like Goldman disparity. At Goldman, I was at 30 LPA, my counterpart was 220K US dollars. This is slightly better than that, but again, there'll always be some scope. All right. This is, you could say, the next 1 year. So I'm basically sharing everything I did and like my paths, my sort of income sources. You can pretty much calculate how much income I would have made as well here. And the key learnings, that's going to be the next 10 minutes. Okay. First 6 months, one client. Next 6 months, one full-time client. Second, talent network. Every 2-3 months, I got 2-3 months clients, and then they would leave, and then more clients, and then they would leave. That is a good thing because after every client, I would increase my price a little. You can like very easily see, you're worth much more in these talent networks because I would increase it by $10 an hour. No one would bat an eye because whatever my previous project rating was good. Or I would like ask, my client, I'm being paid 60. What are they charging you? And they would tell me they're charging me 120K. Then I realized there's like a huge gap here. The clients in the US are willing to pay 120K. And mere tak only $60 an hour is coming, which means the talent network is having 50% in the middle. Fine. It is part of the game. It happens. It's not something you should. Sorry, I'm taking a small detour here. A bunch of times on Upwork and on talent networks, your client will say, let's cut the middleman and let's do an engagement outside. Do not do it. Galti se bhi mat kar dena. These companies, their core job that is to make sure this is not happening. Talent networks, they will always check. They will have 10 different ways to know. Don't do it. Always stay in the network. Just for extra $10 an hour. Don't try to cut the network in the middle. It will not end well. Okay. What was I talking about? Talent network. So here, keep increasing $10 an hour. By the time I was September 2021, this companies I was a little fed up because I felt they were not paying me as much as I could be paid. So yeah, onwards I interviewed for 3 companies. All companies were in the same niche, like some 3D stuff. Here I said the thing that got me in was A-frame. So I did a bunch of like gaming stuff here. Game, 3D, WebRTC, 3 things I did here, which were like slightly different than full stack. Did full stack. Other than full stack, I did some 3D here and some video stuff here. I started interviewing the same niche. COVID bull run. So a lot of companies had raised. 3 companies I interviewed for. First company asked for 200K cash. Second company asked for 300K cash. They did agree. And then fourth company, my final company that I joined was 200K cash, 300K stocks. I was a dumb idiot back then to take 300k stocks. I pushed them for more stocks because this company was raising very quickly. मेरी आंखों के so this company that I used to work for, the one that sort of like not paying me well, यहाँ पे बातें हो रही थी इस कंपनी की कि wow, these guys are raising so quickly. So I felt like, oh wow, the stock will be worth a lot, and I ended up taking more stock than equity, than cash. In hindsight, not the best decision. Probably would have, like, even they were not willing to give us. So they were like, take more cash. I was like, no, I'll take more equity. Back then, equity felt like such a big thing. In hindsight, I've realized, in any case whatsoever, your annual equity should not be more than your annual salary. If you're doing that, you're probably getting fucked at some way. Okay? So cash, give it importance. I do agree equity is good. I do agree. Some very smart people say, the way you make wealth is through equity. I agree. But at the same time, this shouldn't be your distribution between equity and cash. It should probably be at max equal, maybe a little bit less. Cash should be the highest priority here. And make sure you're making right. There are trade-offs. If you increase your salary by 50k, or if you decrease your salary by 50k, the stock should go up by at least 100k. Why? Because stock is illiquid, stock is variable, stock you don't know where it will go. So if a company says, oh, 200 cash, 300k stock, or 300k cash, 200k stock, there is no math there. The math is not mathing. The math only maths if at least 2 to 3x times the equity should increase if your cash goes down. If your cash goes down by 10k, equity should increase by 30k every year, not over a span of 4 years, every year. Another very important thing to keep in mind here is okay, when you're asking for equity, understand what strike price is. This is also super important. Strike price, मैं बता देता हूँ, is basically okay. Let's say there's a company, and you might have heard of this company is valued at $100 million. Meesho today is valued at $5 billion, or Razorpay is valued at $7 billion. When they're giving you stock, there is a strike price, which means you are getting whatever 300k ka stock, but the strike price is at the $7 billion valuation. What does that mean? That means if the company sells for $7 billion, you make nothing. Why? Because your strike price is at the $7 billion valuation. If the company sells at $14 billion, then you make 300k. If the company sells at $21 billion, then you make 600k. You actually make less than that because there is also dilution when these things happen. So if someone tells you, okay, oh, we are only worth 7 billion right now, kalko will be worth $100 billion. So you will make X. One very smart question to ask is, what is my strike price? 2, what is your fair market value? A lot of companies were valued at a lot of money during the bull run. They are not valued at the same amount today. If this company of mine, for example, was valued at almost $1 billion, today they're probably worth $200 million. Why? Because in the US, most startups in India are actually based out of the US. Even Razorpay, maybe not financial companies, some financial companies have moved to India, but other than that, any startup that you hear of, it's actually a US company. Their offices in India, everything in India, whatever. They're actually a US company. They raise funds there. And US में there's this evaluation of even private companies that happens every few months, जिसमें they look at your numbers, your revenue, and tell you your fair market value. Always ask, if you're going equity heavy, ask the company, what is your current fair market value? If your current, just because you raised at $1 billion in the bull run last year does not mean you're valued at $1 billion today. No one is going to give you $100 million in lieu of 10% of your company. So ask them, what is your current fair market value? Then ask them, what is the strike price? Usually, the rule of thumb is whatever the fair market value of the company is your strike price, which means you have 300k of stock at the current strike price. At the current fair market value, the company is today valued at $200 million. If it sells at $200 million, you make nothing. If it does double, then you make 300k. If it does triple, then you make 600k, so on and so forth. That's usually standard. It's for these big companies, the strike price is never zero. So it always feels like, oh, 300k stocks, which means if the company sells today, I'm going to make 300k. That usually does not happen. You have a strike price. You make whatever the company is valued at above the strike price. Okay? Going to do a quick poll here. Is this part clear? Super important if you're going equity heavy. Maybe not needed initially. Is this clear? Yes. No. Oh, wow. Only 80% को clear है. मैं फिर से repeat नहीं करूँगा यार, because it's like one, you can read about it anywhere. Two, it's not very important until you reach that stage. When you reach that stage that you're getting 300K of stock or 100K of stock somewhere, you ping me and take whatever top minute session from me, pay me, and then I'll tell you, because at this stage, you can pay me what, $100 or whatever, and then I'll tell you, do it this way. Don't worry about it until you reach there. Always be very cautious of stock. If a company is saying you have stock, you have stock, just be like, okay, what? Tell me the terms of the stock and read the legal paper they're sending you very well. Understand vesting schedules. ये तो तुम्हें पता ही होगा कि if so my stock there was actually $1.2 million vested over 4 years, which means that annually it was 300K. A lot of times company will say you're getting 100K equity, but it's actually worth vested over 4 years, which means first year you get 25K, second year you get to 25K, so on and so forth. So of course, this is also another obvious question to ask. Baki, I can keep talking more and more about this, but like I don't think any context here is needed, because most people are getting their first offer rather than, okay, I already have a 100K offer and then betting on equity. So let's not spend too much time here. Let's proceed. So let me do a quick recap. What was my first offer after Goldman? $30 an hour. How long did I work there? 7 months. After that, I hedged into 2 companies. First company paid me 100K. Talent networks through, I was probably making maybe 50 to 100K here as well. So I was basically making 200K at this point. Here, I said, time to jump ship. Been here a year. Let's look at I don't think I'm getting paid much here. Applied to 3 companies. First company asked 200K. Did clear that interview. Asked them 200K. They were like, okay, 200K all cash. Next company, 300K all cash. They did agree. Final company, I said, whatever, 400K. I told them I need 500K total, and then this was the distribution we decided, and then this was my 4CR offer. Okay, I was making like whatever. It was a very big clickbait there. It was not actually, it was technically 4CR, but it's not really 4CR, because the stock was highly liquid, still is liquid. I still own this stock, but it'll, like, a lot of things will have to happen for it to make money. It's the stock price of that company follows the stock price of Zoom, because it's a very similar company. So if I basically joined when September 2021, around this time, and then they were valued at a lot. Today they're Zoom ka stock hai, if it has depreciated by almost 80% now, so has my stock here. So pretty much worthless. Cool. Yahan se open source journey began. This was again continuing for when I was in my 4CR offer. I was also doing consulting, and this was something I made them clear. A few more things to know here is when you get into these good companies, which are like paying more than 100K, you get hired by remote.com or deal.com. So these are 2 companies that will, so the way it works is remote.com has a company in India, similar to Google India, Google Goldman Sachs India. So does Deal. Yeah. Sorry, this is the Japanese version, but like Deal is a US company. Both of them have companies in India. You get hired by the Indian company of these aggregators. So I was actually not a Zoom employee or whatever this company was. I was a remote.com employee. That is what my payroll said until the longest time. Who was I? I was the remote.com employee. And that company sort of consults with remote.com. That is the way it works. I can just show you guys. I don't think there's anything confidential here. Time to stop sharing. Sorry, just 1 second. Just want to show you like the payroll process, all that jazz. 1 second. Sorry, this just came in randomly. I did not prepare for this. So I have to log in. Maybe let me also show you equity and how it works. All right. Cool. Sorry about that. Share screen. Cool. So you get like a very nice dashboard like this. So it feels like you're part of a real company. Important things here are like pay slips. So I worked there for a year. September 21 is something a lot of companies will push for. Then this is what you make. And this was September 2021 to September 2022. September 2022 is when I was like open source. So by then, if you're doing this for such a long time, one, you get very good at communicating. Two, you understand a few things that I'm going to share tomorrow, which is like how do you get into companies, how do you approach companies, what company to approach. And then the third thing you're good at by this time is you become a senior engineer, so you can understand various code bases. A combination of these three things is pretty deadly, and that's what happened. When I started contributing to a bunch of companies, and then I got into a few. This I've talked about on my this company, this one right here. So you can go to how I got a high-paying remote job through open source contributions. This basically shares how I was working here, and within a window of 15 days, I was able to contribute very aggressively to a repo and got hired there. This is the thing I'm hoping a bunch of you do. Not a lot of companies are open source. Also, when they are, some YouTuber like me will talk about them and then it'll be flooded with contributions. So that is one way to get hired. The better way is what I'll talk about tomorrow, what companies to approach. But this has been my journey. And here is when I sort of stopped consulting because I want to go like actually full time here. But you can still do consulting on the side. As long as you've kept expectations met here, everyone knows you do consult on the side, you'll be fine. My latest upload on YouTube talks about this, how when I was in my 4th year offer, I was also doing consulting here. ठीक है भाई, let's take a pause here. How are we doing? Are we doing good? Shall we proceed or should we proceed? Yes or no? Are we doing good? Yes or no? All right. Very good. ठीक है भाई. Enough motivation, enough about me, I think. Now, let's talk about what are the salary bands today. This is all outdated information from 3 years ago. And today things have changed. Also, you know how the market is and how the market was a few years ago. So let's talk about what are the current salary bands. This comes from like a very nice big research. This is the current salary band for a good engineer. As you become a senior engineer, if you do extraordinary things, this number can go up. This is just cash. There is more equity. But if this cohort is where you learned how to code, I'm sure if you reach this point, if you've done all classes until now, and you probably knew a little bit of coding before, that with all the things that you've learned here, if you start applying today, if you've not had any experience before, this is what you should charge. This is the standard for a remote job. If you're joining as an intern, $30K US, SD1, $60K US, which is like technically a junior software engineer, mid-size 80K, senior software engineer 100K, super senior principal engineer 120K. If you're working remotely, this is cash. You can negotiate more on equity. This is standard. If you're a more aggressive person, if they know you're very good, much better, I'll adjust, then you can charge more. This is the standard. If you're good, this is what you can charge. This is what companies are usually looking at or recruiters are looking at when they're hiring you. So the thing to really know is where do you lie here on this spectrum? Are you a junior engineer, mid engineer, senior or principal? If the cohort is the first time you've learned everything, the first time you learned TRPC, first time you learned GraphQL, maybe start at junior and take a 60K offer. If you already don't make as much, this is 50 lakh per annum basically. Start here and go from there. If you're in college, cleanest, easiest path. Yeah, this is what my brother did as well. His salary is 20 LP, which is $25K US. He's not an intern. Technically, he's a full-time employee. But college they don't feel, if you've worked for 2 or 3 years and you asked for just 30K, a mild yellow flag. Why is this person only asking for 30K US? College you can do whatever you want. So college you can ask for 15K US, which is 10 lakh rupees, to 30K US. And you can be the intern there. And the good thing here is one very easy switch from here to here. You're going to at least double your salary after a year after you graduate. So work at this salary, maybe a little bit more, keep increasing it. And after a year, then ask for this big jump, become like this. 1, 2, 3, whatever you want there. If you're not in college, then start at least here, maybe a little bit less than that. Maybe 50K US is a pretty good starting point. It grows very quickly from there. But unless you're making much more than that already, 50K US is a very nice humble number to kick things off from, because you really need that first offer or maybe a second offer. Feel free to do 2 jobs, but don't ask for more than 50K in one job initially. When you get that job, don't ask for increments very quickly. Find another job. If you feel like, because 50K US, your expectations from you isn't too much, you can easily manage 2 jobs. If you really want more money and you're dying for a 100K offer, rather than pinching that company, please make it 70K, 80K, just find another job and manage time better there. That would be my high level advice for this slide. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. I think this is like the current what you can charge as a remote software developer from India or wherever actually. Role of Upwork in all of this. तो इस सब के बीच में I've showed you this whole journey. I did not ever talk about Upwork. It wasn't a very big source of income slash, as I said today, don't target small jobs, target at least 1 month plus jobs, maybe 3 to 6 months jobs at the very least. Upwork is not that. You don't find this here. Upwork, we find a lot of spiky work, which means achanak se you'll find someone who will give you a lot of money for a week and then, it'll be dead for a really long time. Happy to share this. There is a video on this as well. This is what my Upwork profile looks like. So let's see. It's been a while. Yeah, so October 2020, which means when I was in my first stage here, March to September, is when I had started. Upwork was my other source of income. Even though I've been saying this was the only job I was doing, I was trying to find work here on Upwork and leave this job. This was like a different job, but everything other than that have been like $1,000, $2,500, this is like $75. So not really worth it for any reason whatsoever. Unless you get an offer like this, which is like a full-time mish offer. This offer is like this. The company, one of the companies that I've talked about here, used to pay me via Upwork for a while, and then we moved off of it. But so you should basically remove this from here. These are the gigs that I actually found on Upwork, which is $3,200, $2,500, $75, $500, and then $5,000, $600. This guy like choose liya tha bhai isne mujhe. So if I probably cannot show you chats, but like it's definitely not worth it. Like people are really pinching pennies here because every month you don't have a fixed payroll. You have a very project-based payroll. Basically, would not recommend Upwork. I would recommend you to get into Talent Networks. Uske liye I would recommend DSA sharpen, coding skills sharpen. I will talk about what they ask during interviews and apply at your timing matters a lot. Because if you get rejected in these talent networks, there's usually no good way for you to get back in. They maintain very big databases, who had applied. If your name is whatever Hakirat Singh, they will reference check. Is there a different Hakirat Singh from different email who had applied? So they're very strict with these things. So take your time, then apply. And TopTal, we had 20 referrals for people. I gave it to 2 people, both got waitlisted. Third person from Singapore got in. He actually joined the TopTal network. So TopTal has some sort of a freeze for Indians. So I'm happy to still refer people. There's a very high chance you'll get waitlisted until Jan of next year. That is what it told those people. But if you're not from India and if you want a referral, feel free to ping. Seems like they're only hiring people from Southeast Asia, but not India. So that's TopTal and that's Upwork. I can show you my messages. It's just a lot of haggling, a lot of, the only good project here I would say is, there you go. This one. This was for a week. So like 2,500 for a week is not bad. So I basically did bill 57 hours in 1 week. These are the spikes that I'm talking about. These are pretty good. If you can find one very desperate company who really needs an engineer, you can bill them 57 hours in 1 week. But other than that, not worth it. Again, this is my journey. Everyone's could be different, but only come to Upwork for these spiky projects. There are a few people for whom this has worked. Like this has become their prime source of income. People have made more than $1 million on Upwork. It did not work too well for me. So that would be my high-level advice. Rather than just focus on either companies or talent networks. Okay? That's the role of Upwork. Interviews. All right, this is important. Interviews, 3 तरीके के होते हैं, and let's talk about all of them. 3 तरीके मतलब, sorry, we'll talk about remote job में कैसा होता है. If you're doing an open source, if you're getting in through open source, how your interview is. If you're getting into a normal remote job without open source, how it is. And if you're getting into a talent network, then what is the interview process? These are the 3 things we're going to talk about. Interviews are usually fairly chill if you've contributed to open source. They've already seen what you do. They're usually very impressed. That's why they've reached out. They're usually the ones who are reaching out to you. It's a very smooth ride. As long as your comp expectations meets their salary bands, you're good. So open source mein to don't even worry about it. There is literally no interview. My open source company, 0 interview. Literally, we saw, you're good. What did you do before this? Okay, sounds pretty aligned to what we're wanting to do. Why do you want to get into Web3? I give my reasons. This is the salary expectation. They said it was good to go. So that's the best path. You don't have to worry about interviews. If you're actually really good at software development, and if you find a company that has their code base open source and you're contributing very aggressively to it, don't worry about interviews. If not, there are usually 3 to 4 interviews. My 500K offer, the other companies that I was applying to here after September 2021, the 3 companies that I applied to, all 3 of them Two of them had very grueling interviews. One was very chill, but other two were like 3 to 4 interviews. And two things were very common. Three, there was no DSA, there was system design, and there was a code along project, which means they would give you something to code to see how well you code. These three things were common. I think are still common if you're not getting in through open source. DSA is usually not asked. If you're fairly junior, it might be asked, but usually is not asked. System design is asked. And code along project, which means they will give you an assignment and ask you to actually code it and push it on GitHub. And then they'll look at your code, make sure you actually did the assignment or not. Okay? Very, very common. 3 to 4 interviews. They're hiring you remotely. They need to do this sort of screening before, they give you an offer. Okay? Assignment at my 4CR company. So 4CR company had 4 interviews. One was a casual meeting with my manager. Interview with the HR. In dono ko nikal do. Casual meetings are fine. I think you guys can handle it as long as you're good in English. Other two were, one was system design interview, which was with the CTO of the company, and who asked me, this is our system, this is what we do. How would you design this? Literally, usually this is the question. There is a certain problem in their company that they're working on. And then they're like, okay, how would you do this? We're trying to solve this internally. How would you do this? And then since they're already trying to solve it internally, they know all the edge cases. They know what problems they're running into. So it's a pretty casual discussion. It's not interview system design really. It could be that as well sometimes, but usually it is, this is our company. How would you build our backend if you were to do it from scratch? What database would you use? What backend server would you use? What would you do if more than 100,000 requests started to come per second? How would you auto scale it? How would you scale it down in case the requests went down? What cloud provider would you use? What language would you use? Why would you choose Golang over Node.js or Rust over Golang? These are the questions that are asked. Pretty ad hoc. You can't really prepare for this system design. This is a little different than, the Google L4 system design interview because they're like standard. And, there are questions you can prepare. This is very practical knowledge based. Have you seen these things before? Have you covered these corner cases before? So that's how they ask. And some talent networks also have this. Brain Trust basically had a system design interview, basically the same thing. They would ask you to build a system from scratch end to end. Okay. That is one. Two, so you're talking about the 4CR offer. 4-hour assignment. Inki assignment was pretty good. So this is not the system design interview. This is the take along assignment. So I went to their Zoom call. There was some director of engineering there. He told me, okay, let me explain this a little bit better. He basically had written a JavaScript file. In the JavaScript file, he had made a bunch of not HTTP requests. He had made a WebSocket connection, but let's ignore that. Let's assume the assignment was, okay, there was a very long file which had a bunch of test cases. The test cases were they were sending an HTTP request to a backend server and then changing some things on the backend server. So let me just explain the problem completely. This company was a game company, like a gaming company. So what is a good example here? Have you guys seen Minecraft? It's something like that. So what is usually Minecraft? It's like a 3D world where a bunch of avatars move, right? Their application was very similar, only it was 2D. So it was like a 2D canvas where there's an avatar here, there's an avatar here. They can move around and talk to each other. This was the application. The assignment was the backend for this. So they had written a JavaScript file, which was the client for it, which means it would create connection to a server. It would send events to the server. Okay, player 1 moved up, player 1 moved right, player 1 initialized to 0,0, some point on the canvas, and then moved up by 2, moved right by 3. This was the code they had written. My job, the assignment was to write the backend for it, which means I write an HTTP server. Again, it wasn't an HTTP server, but assume it was an HTTP server. I write the HTTP server, which exposes routes that this client hits. What are the routes? Initialize a user at 0,0. After they're initialized, move the user 1 up 2 blocks. Move a user 1 right to 3 blocks. I would have had to store all of this either in a database or in memory. And then the other type of request was, where is player 1? And I would have had to respond with that. This was the assignment. I had to write the backend for it and make sure that the client code that they had written, it was able to hit my backend server. It was able to talk to my backend server and all the tests here passed, which means if it sent request initialize player at 0,0, then move player up by 2 levels, and then move player right by 3, and then asked for this player's position, my backend server would return 2,3. The player is at this specific point. Is this assignment clear? I'm happy to just create a mock for it and share it. So I will share. This will be the assignment for this week. I will create the client for it. It's clear only. Very good. I'm happy to also just create the client, the exact assignment you guys can do it. The thing here was, it was 2 parts and you had to nail both of the parts. Only then would you get in. First part was the easy part, which was you create a single backend server where this was the client code. Yeah, a single backend server I had to write where this client would hit and tell move player 1 to the right 3 times. This was a simple assignment. The difficult assignment was there is more than one backend server, and the client can hit any random backend server, can move player 1 3 moves to the right, and then can send another request to another backend server. So I basically can't store this data in memory in variables. Player 1 is at XY position, and then if the player moves up, they've now moved to some other position, because the end user can send some requests here, some requests here. This is like a very standard distributed system problem. Eventually your app will grow, your game will have too many users, so you will have to have multiple backends. If you have multiple backends, how does I basically had to write the code for it. How does it change? And this was the first part took me 1.5 hours. The second part took me 30 minutes because of the way I had written the code. All I had to do was, in my original code, rather than storing data here, I would store it in a central store, which I used Redis. You can use like MongoDB. You need a central place to store data now, right? If this guy says, if one request reach here, move player a little bit to the right, then another request reach here. All of them need to store this data in a central place, which usually is the database. Redis is slightly better for this use case because it's a very real-time use case, and there's like faster retrievals in Redis, and this avatar position is very transitory. You don't really need to store it in a database, because even if Redis goes down, even if there is lack of data communication, it's fine, because the player can just respawn at a different place. You can just kill the specific space and restart it. People will start moving around again. So this was I just had to modify the code a little bit to, rather than storing data here, store here, and then transmit data through. I'm happy to share the almost exact question statement and then give it to you guys. I think you guys have enough context to write the code. At least if the backend is a HTTP server, you guys can write it. In the original assignment, the backend was a WebSocket server, which is slightly different from an HTTP server. But the assignment will stick to, I'll create one, which will basically be these 2 parts. This was my assignment. Expected time was 4 hours. I did it in 2 hours. They were fairly impressed. Had to create a WebSocket server that would support accepting positions from avatars and position updates. Had to be able to answer wherever user was. This was the problem statement. Simple was to store it in memory. Hard was to do it in a distributed way. What was my distributed store? It was Redis. Okay. Cool hai. Assignments for Upwork. Sometimes in Upwork, there's a big project. I had one of these. Yep. I think this is the one. I could be wrong. Maybe there's another one. One of these was like, most probably this one only. So this guy was like, I want to hire someone full-time or whatever for a few months, but I want to, test them out first. So usually these guys will pay. So this guy did a trial run with a few people, asked me to build a very small part of this multiplayer game, which was like the front end, and like just show communication is happening between 2 browser tabs. But I wrote it in React. He was a developer himself, but like he did not know React. He was more comfortable with raw JavaScript, so he went with someone else. But you'll find some of these gigs on Upwork. But again, it does not matter. I wouldn't recommend going to Upwork. What would I recommend? Getting a job. Okay. Assignments for talent network. This is important. This also I'm happy to give. Maybe not this week, maybe next week. I don't overwhelm you guys. But this is super important. This is one of those butterfly effect moments. If you're fucked, you're fucked. So DSA was one thing for me in talent networks. If I was not good at DSA, that night I thanked God I did DSA, because they asked pretty grueling questions. I will share what the question, like one of the questions, like the format of the question, not the exact question, but like some similar question. And the second thing is super. So a few small things happened. The assignment usually happens like this. It was like, let's say the assignment is build a fitness tracking app, which means you have to write usually just the backend. You don't have to write the front end. The backend for the user can be like, okay, I went on a run at 5 a.m. this morning, push that goes to the backend server, gets stored somewhere. And then user can sign up, user can sign in, user can send these things. And then you have to support things like allowing the user to fetch the workouts that they've done. Also, like some component of the user can give their location, their latitude and longitude. Okay, they were doing the workout at this specific latitude, longitude. And then you have to support search by location. Okay, how much workout did I did? How many hours of workout did I do in Delhi, for example, or in Bangalore? So these were sort of the high level, very well defined outputs that were expected. But a few things that bad engineers do, I was about to do. Thankfully, I did not do them. And one of those things was, so we've talked, if you remember, about status codes. Your HTTP server returns status codes. You don't have to return, a specific status code. You can always return 200. But ideally, if your backend, there is an authentication problem, you should return 403. If there's an input problem, you should return 411. If everything is good, you should return 200. If your server itself went down, there was some exception, you should return 500. These are standard status code that your backend should return. But in a lot of companies, a lot of ugly code that I had written until then, I would just send back 200 always. And my output body would look something like, where should I post this? My output body would look something like this. Error, true, and then, data something. And the status code would always be 200. Body may there would be an error field that would tell the front end that there was an error in the request. This is very bad practice. You should not do it. I was about to do this because this assignment I had to do in like a week. And then I was thinking of taking these shortcuts. Thankfully, I did not. That guy literally asked me, what is the status code? He focused a lot on status codes. But then I realized, you have to write a really smart code, which means write tests, write a lot of comments, create an OpenAPI file. I did create an OpenAPI file. I did have a Swagger page where the user could, when I was in the interview, he told me, okay, create a new user. I sent from that OpenAPI Swagger page a post request to create a user. Then he said, okay, create a workout, all these things. I just clicked buttons here. I was able to send post requests because there was no front end. Or you could have a Postman file that you have ready so that when the interviewer comes, you're able to show all the functionality. Another thing, there are a few things that happen in these talent network interviews. I thought I had written those somewhere. Yeah, this is the one. They want to see you for some reason, they'll undermine you a little. They'll be like, oh, you should have done this. Why did you not do this? They'll try to break your confidence. And then they'll say, can you fix this? And how long will it take you to fix this? My answer always was 30 seconds. It was something small. For example, I had missed a route to, let's say, I don't know, update the user's name, something like that it was. And then he was like, this is a very important use case. How did you miss this? This app won't run only. So this is very bad, very bad. Oh, I don't think this is good. So it'll break your confidence. Then he'll be like, oh, so can you fix this? I was like, yes. How long will it take you? I said 30 seconds. And then I literally in front of him, screen share, I fixed the thing, showed it to him. So he did this 3 times with me. Makes me think, this is something they do with everyone. They want to make sure you're the one who's written the code. If you're the one who has written the code, they will ask you a follow-up question and ask you to fix it right then and there. You should be very comfortable with the code that you've written and fix it very quickly. Okay? This is one thing you should keep in mind. In talent network interviews, again, these are very important, super helpful if you get in your life. A part of your life is pretty sorted. You have a talent network that will help you get jobs. Other part is DSA. This is also, again, standard advisor. Whatever people say on YouTube, forget that for a moment. I'm telling you it is important. I guess people on YouTube also say it's important, so it works. Why is it important? Do you use it in your job? No. Do you need it in your job, in day-to-day? No. But companies will ask you this. Talent networks do ask, and they ask grueling questions. This was the question that was asked to, a variation of this question was asked to a friend of mine that got rejected by one of these talent networks because he wasn't able to solve it. The question is, given a 4x4 grid, give the minimum number of steps that you need to take so that the grid reaches this configuration. Oh, this is wrong. This should be 4 here. So there is a 4x4 grid, which means a 2D array that you have been given. It could have anything here. So 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 4 here, 5 here, 6 here, 7 here, 8 here. Some jumbled version is present here. You have to tell in minimum steps, you have to make 1 reach here, 2 reach here, 3 reach here, 4 reach here. And what is the step? You can either flip horizontally or flip vertically. So 1 can go here, 2 can come here, 2 can go here, 3 can go here, or 2 can go here, 6 can go here. This is considered 1 step. You have to tell in minimum number of steps. What are those steps? Like number of steps in which the final configuration reaches this. If there is no way to reach this configuration, you have to return a -1 or whatever. This was the problem. How many of you already know this? How many of you think you can already solve, like think of some variation of this? You only had 15 minutes to solve this problem, by the way. So are you guys, how are we on DSA here? Can you guys solve this? Do you know, this is a standard question? I don't know. Oh, wow. Most people know. हाँ तो यही है भाई, ये आना चाहिए. अब मुझे नहीं पता कि is this intuition. So my friend, basically I referred them in one of these talent networks. They got through the first round. In their first round, that friend of mine had signed up using 2 emails or something like that. So the HR asked them, are both of these emails yours? He said yes. So like, okay, I'm going to remove one of them. So they're very strict. They do these checks. The person with this name hasn't already applied. And he was asked this problem. He was not able to do it. I don't know. He told me the problem, I was able to figure out the solution. I actually don't know if this is right or wrong. Most probably it is. It's for a very small grid like this, it will work. It's I think O(n) cube solution. The solution, it's a DP problem. You can basically be like, I'll share a quick solution here. Happy to elaborate later on. Happy to discuss this in the end when we're doing a little bit of DSA as well at the end. We'll be doing these problems, like just to tell you, this is what you need to know. We're not doing a DSA course. I won't teach DSA from scratch. I'll tell you, these are the hard problems that they ask. I have a bunch of these. Some of them were asked to me, some of them were asked to friends. I can create variations of these problems and share. This one, the answer basically is, if let's say this original configuration is, let's break this down. Let's just make it a 2x2 grid. Let's say it's 1, 2, 4, 3 here. Okay? You can just basically be like the 1, 2, 4, 3 configuration. How many steps will it take for me to reach this configuration? The answer is 0 steps, because this is the original place where you started from. In 1 step, I can either go to 2, 1, 4, 3, which means I flip the first 2. Or in 1 step, where can I go? I can go to basically 4 such variations I can create, right? In 1 step, I can go to 2, 1, 4, 3. I can go to whatever, 1, 4, 2, 1, 3, right? I can flip these 2, and then I can do a few more flippings. So you can basically be like, okay, I can from here reach 4 places in 1 step. You can basically create like a graph. Why did I say this is a DP problem? This looks like a graph because you are doing memoization here. What is memoization, Harkiyat? You're basically, if there is ever a state you reach from 2 places, for example, you might reach 2, 1, 4, 3 in 1 step. You might also be able to reach 2, 1, 4, 3 like this, right? You can maybe flip the first 2 and then flip to both of them again. You'll reach here or whatever. There are various ways to sort of reach a specific point. So you have to memorize this. In 1 step, I can reach this, I can reach this, I can reach this, I can reach this. And then you can basically keep going, create 4 tabs from here and 4 from here, 4 from here, 4 from here. A lot of them will like go back to an edge that you've already created. In the end, you'll have a graph. Which will be like, these are all the variations that you can create from given input variation. If 1, 2, 3 was the original, 1, 2, 4, 3 is what it looks like originally. I can either reach this in these many steps. And then one of these nodes is where you want to finally reach. So you'll be like, okay, minimum number of steps to reach there is this. And if you are not able to ever reach the 1, 2, 3, 4 configuration here, the answer is -1. Was this clear? Or still up in the air? Pretty good. 65, 66%. Okay. Difficult problem. If you've not coded before, if you've not done DSA before, it will definitely be difficult. If you've done that as well, मुझे भी उसने बताया तो I thought of it sort of when I was sleeping, so I realized it's not too difficult maybe. So implementing this I mean, I don't know. It depends on your coding skills, but I think this is implementing this is fairly easy for 16 cross 16 grid or like 4 cross 4 grid. And this solution, I think, is like some n square n cube, pretty big, but doesn't really matter because it might actually. Oh, sorry, it actually might be 2 to the power n. It might be 2 to the power 16. How much is 2 to the power 16? Yeah, I think the solution is 2 to the power 16. 2 to the power n. If the number of edges are n, or the number of I don't know, elements here are n. If there are 16 elements, I think the solution is 2 to the power 16, which is fine for such a small uh, dice. If the number becomes big, if it's a 20 cross 20 grid, the story changes. But here it's pretty simple. So it's sort of a very ad hoc solution um, because the number of edges here are small. That's usually how they ask. The problem might feel difficult. It is difficult, but you have to usually give the brute force approach to get by. They might ask you to optimize it later on, but my friend wasn't even able to do this. So this much should be easy to get to, right? A brute force solution doesn't sound too hard. Or maybe it does, I don't know. Depends on how much DSA you have done. But इतना पूछते हैं, so be ready. Yeah, I wasn't asked this difficult a question, but it was pretty close. And again, 16 minutes, 12 minutes, they have weird numbers. You have to do it in the next 12 minutes. So you have to code it. Language does not matter. Usually they prefer JavaScript for some reason. These talent networks, I coded in C++, and then this is the second interview. Then he was like, "Oh, you coded in C++. The assignment is an HTTP server. Will you be able to write an HTTP server in C++?" Then I said, "No, I'll just write it in React. Sorry, Node.js." And he was like, that's what we expect as well because most jobs here are like on the one stack. So you can do any language, but they prefer JavaScript for some reason, which is not what happens in Fang. Okay? Think slide khatam hai. Cool. This is it. Questions. Is this clear? Any part other than equity that was difficult? Are we good? Shall we proceed? Mostly Q&A after this. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone. Let's open chat. And can anyone find a tool? I know there is a tool that exists where you can post a lot of questions and you can upvote. And then whatever is the most upvoted question, I can look at that. Can someone find a tool like that? I'm sure they exist. Until then, I'll just open chat for everyone. All right. Ando. Pause. ठीक है. Slido. Let's say. Break. चलो break ले लो यार. मतलब इसमें क्या break है? Do you guys want a break? Yes or no? I'm happy to take a break. I don't mind. I also drink some water. Break? Yes or no? Well, mostly no, right? And a pretty chill class, right? तो चलो ले लेते हैं 20% upside. तो meet back at 8:15. Maybe also get some water. So see you guys at 8:15. Yep. Let's take a break. Cool. I will answer questions after I come. Okay, 5 more minutes. I'll see you guys in 5. आ गया भाई. Cool है. So we had 3 more minutes. इससे बात कर लेते हैं. I think these classes matter a little bit. What we're learning today and tomorrow, like super important, because I've said this many times. There are much more smarter people than me that make much less. There are much dumber people than me that make much more. So a lot of times this is a combination of opportunity, connect, knowing where to apply and what to learn, which is what you learn through these classes. We won't have too many of these. I'm happy to do another one like after this week, but generally focus on learning. But a class here or two is just to direct you in the right direction. For example, I have like another advice, but let me give that advice in 2 minutes after everyone comes back. It's related to Web3, so I'm not yaad kar dena in case I forget. But the general idea here is a lot of times, thankfully, I've been connected to like people who were good in remote work, and I'm sort of somehow able to catch these trends. It's always good to know one of these trends, get into one of these companies, and then from then you guys can take it on your own. But I think there's a big part of India. For example, this brother of mine, he's like third year, did not code much. He's a very distant brother. Of course, if I have a very close brother, I'd make them code. But like he's pretty distant brother, did not code. I kept on telling him, I think you should code. He was like, yeah, Joey, he did a bunch of things. And then finally, I told him, okay, do this. He does not code very well, or at all. I don't know. I mean, he probably just does code, but like college coding, he has done nothing more than that. But I told these are a bunch of companies that will most probably hire a lot, or like need a lot of talent. So apply here and ask for a humble number. And surprisingly, the first company I applied to, he got it. So these are the sort of small butterfly effects that happen. I think he can take it from here. I don't think he needs me to guide anymore, or I can, but like, yeah, he's pretty good now. I'm not too worried about him anymore. So that is what I want from hopefully everyone from this cohort. Okay, you guys get that first thing and have enough knowledge to be able to crack these companies. I can't really control the market. What I can control is telling you guys where there is opportunity, and that's what we're trying to do here. So that was the high level of why I want to do this class. Originally the class was just me sharing my journey, what I did today. But I feel my journey is 2020 bull run. A lot of things have changed. What is important right now to know is how to get a job right now and not a job in 2020. So for that, I think the things that I'm sharing tomorrow will be super important. So definitely attend to tomorrow's class, and whatever I tell tomorrow, don't start flocking there. Only go there if you've done all the classes until now, or at the very least, all the classes that have been mentioned here. You understand all these technologies, then start applying. Increase your chances by doing this. Don't start just blindly applying to companies. And that'll be my high level advice. Okay? Chalo bhai. Now let's do Q&A. And one thing I was about to talk about was there are the goal for these classes is to give what is called alpha. Alpha basically represents something you came to know from this thing, which will give you like push you in just one direction by whatever 1 degrees, but like over time that becomes very big. The example that I was just giving here was like I have a brother Gurka, and he recently he's in college, did not code much, but I kept on pushing him. He still did not, but then eventually he got an offer somewhere because of something I told him, and then hopefully I'm going to share the same thing tomorrow with you guys. Same thing happens with you. Another alpha here I'd like to share would be do apply to Solana ka jo hackathon hai. Most people like winning. There are like college students. A bunch of them are college students from India. They have some affinity towards Indian college students, or like Indian people generally. There are some prizes here always. You don't have to build a very big thing, but Solana hackathon, like try to build use cases. I've made a video on this. What are some good ideas that you can pursue? So these are the sort of tracks. People have actually won this. Like people I know have won this. A very close friend of mine has won this twice. 10K one time, I think 15K the other time. So she made like $25,000 just through hackathons. I would love to see a few of you win this. I'm telling you, it is not difficult. There's a good chance you don't win, but there's a high probability of you winning if you create a decent project. So these are the tracks. I have given a few ideas in the video that I've talked about here. And other than that, you can think of a few ideas of your own, but definitely apply. I mean, of course, don't apply with a dead project if you know it's not going to win, but like create a good pitch, create a Twitter account, start posting, okay, this is what we're building, and actually build that. The look and feel does not matter too much. The code they do look at, But the idea is the thing that matters the most. To create some revolutionary ideas. Few I've talked about on the video. AI के साथ, if you can build something in crypto, people will throw money, which means you will win hackathon. So even if it's fifth prize, it's not bad. So, and this is like, I think this is per person. So if you have a 3-member team, all of you win $5,000. I think I could be wrong. So pretty good. This is another thing I just wanted to share. Okay, do this before the whenever the deadline for this is. Worst case, you don't win. Best case, you win. Even if you win a $5,000, great. If you win 30, even better. The people that I talked to, one of them won 25K, the other one won like some 15K, something like that. So this is legit. Might not feel legit, did not feel legit to me for a really long time. Yeah, how are they paying this much? But they are. And to Indians, this is one of those things कि पता ही नहीं होती है. And then, there are dumb people who are making money here. And I want you guys who are smart people and, have learned coding and can build real use cases to go and build and win. So please, ये कर लेना. ठीक है? Thank you. That was the last thing Alpha for today. Let's get into some coding. Sorry, question answering. We scroll up here. थोड़ा सा, if possible, let's avoid personal questions. I am XYZ, this is my position, what should I do? Try to ask more generic question that can benefit everyone. Okay? Talent networks, I will repeat one more. Okay, I think I answered this already. Gigster, TopTal, Brain Trust. एक और जो मैं डाल दूंगा, I'm forgetting the name. I am planning so let me just, I'm going to speak the question and then the answer. The question is, I am planning my career for the next 2 to 3 years. I want your opinion on when Web3 will boom. According to me, it's core part of my planning. Mukul, the thing is, if I knew that, I would make a lot of money. No one can predict where markets go. Crypto could die tomorrow. Crypto could go very up tomorrow. Everything depends on a lot of macroeconomic factors and, whether or not that industry was able to find product market fits. Crypto has some product market fits. Crypto is overinflated though. A lot of the value of the market caps of a lot of companies shouldn't be this much. They're not creating that kind of value. There's some correction that may happen, may not happen. I cannot predict. The good thing about crypto is, since there's so much money, even the worst case here is pretty good. Even if there's a downturn, people are still making 200K, 100K, college students, hackathons are still paying this much money. So even if things do not boom, thankfully a lot of money flew into the system. Thankfully a bunch of 100 million to billionaires were made who invested early in Bitcoin and Ethereum. They keep reinvesting in the ecosystem. So it's a safe job to have. Don't worry too much about where the market is going. How did you manage to broadcast data between backends? Great question. Let me share that. I am actually forgetting the problem statement a little bit. Because, as you said, there was actually a need to broadcast data between backends. It was not just that client hits backend, backend hits Redis. And then whenever there is a read request, same thing happens. No. It was literally client hits backend, backend hits Redis. Redis has a pub sub mechanism. That pub sub hits all 3 backends back with the same data. So if the data is move user up by 2, that data reaches here. Redis sends it back to all 3 servers through Redis has a very simple pub sub that you can use here. And then all 3 servers would store this data in memory. Something like that the problem statement was. I do remember using Redis pub sub. So the answer to your question here is, how did I broadcast data? I used most probably pub sub. Redis also gives you queues that does the same thing. But I think I use like the standard Redis pub sub. Do we need to make a unique project for our portfolio, or is it fine to make not unique projects? Solid projects matters, which means one, it should be deployed, two, it should be look very pretty, and then the use case matters a little bit. But if you're just worried about portfolio projects, focus on how clean they look, how clean the code is that you've written, how many fancier technologies you've used. If you write it in JavaScript, it's pretty not impressive at all. It's pretty, the opposite of impressive, disimpressive, if that's a word. TypeScript, bare minimum. Strict TypeScript, even better. Zord for validation, beautiful. TRPC, so the more not complex, but like the more fancy technology you use, the more it will impress the end user. Please tell again DSA and which language you suggest for DSA currently studying in college. I was saying DSA you should do, it is important, do everything. There are a bunch of free videos, there are a bunch of courses, do whatever. Should have it, language, pick and choose, does not matter. Remote work mein, talent networks mein, they prefer JavaScript because most people there are like more stack developers, so they can read JavaScript versus it's a little hard for them to read C++, but does not matter at all. Choose the language of your choice. If you want to apply to Fang on the side, then choose either C++ or Java. The way you told it doesn't seem like you are getting stock. It seems like you're more of stock options, which expire worthless if the company stock goes down value. You are right. You usually don't get stocks. चलो बात कर लेते हैं. You get what are called stock options. What does that mean, Harkirat? It basically means you get the option of buying that company ka stock at, let's say, $30 a share. Let's say the company has 1 million shares, which means the founder has 500 million shares, 500k shares. Other founder has 400k shares. 10% of that is with like an investor, whatever. There's like, okay, this is how a company cap table looks like. Co-founder one, usually by the time you join them, if they've raised a round or two, co-founder one has, let's say, whatever, 30% of the company left, which means, let's say they have 30,000 shares. Okay? What is a share? If you go to Zerodha, you buy 1 share of Google, 1 share of whatever, Tata Steel. Similarly, these companies have shares. 30,000 this guy owns right now. It's a private company. It's not on Zerodha, so you don't know the price of 1 share. But they have created shares. This is what this guy owns. Co-founder 2 usually owns the same amount, or like if there are 3 co-founders, it will be split between 3 people. A major chunk usually investors take because they put a lot of money in the company. Let's say that's 30% as well. And these are the guys who put money where the money goes into a bank account. Harkirat, is this the personal money of these co-founders? No. This is company money. Let's say whatever, $100 million. This is what is used to pay employees and do other expenses like cloud, all that jazz. 10% usually is standard what's called the ESOP pool, employee stock option pool. This, let's say the company is valued at $1 billion, which means 100 million is in the ESOP pool. Whenever someone comes, Harkirat joins, they say, oh, you get 1.2 million worth of stocks in the next 4 years, 300k a year. That comes from this ESOP pool. Whenever a new employee joins, you usually do not create fresh shares for the employees. You take some money out from this ESOP pool. Usually 10% is enough to be distributed between employees. Okay? Once you join a company, you don't get a piece of the pie. You don't simply get 0.1% from this ESOP pool. You get the option to buy this piece. You have to pay some money to buy it if you feel like owning it. If you've worked at the company for 3 years, you are leaving the company, they will say, Harkirat, you have the option to buy this stock, which means I literally have to pay the company to buy this stock, whatever, 100k. This was literally the number I would have had to pay to buy my stock. Usually what happens is the company raises a big round and this pie is worth 300k. You still have to pay only 100k. So what happens is the company pays you back 200k. ये फिर से थोड़ा confusing हो गया मुझे लग रहा है. But if the company has not gone public and if ESOPs that you've been assigned, this chunk is going to get expired after you leave the company, you have to buy it up, which means you have to literally pay the company to buy the stock. Usually this strike price is slightly lesser than what the company is valued at. So I'm basically getting these shares at a discount. But again, I can go deeper. Probably should create a different video. Did not prepare for this. I'm explaining this really bad. If you reach that stage, just ping me or like whatever. Somehow post on the group, tag me, and I'll happy to share what you should do in this case situation. Okay. All right. So in 1 year, you have done one. The first year, most of it was one. If you go back here, where is it? The very first year, not really first year. First 7 months was one. Here it was some, as I said, 3D stuff and video stuff. Here it was a combination of MERN and WebRTC, 2 things. As my prices grew, MERN thoda kam ho gaya because a lot of people know MERN on these talent networks. So if I charge myself $100 an hour, there's another one guy on this talent network who's charging $60 an hour. He's the one who will get the job. if you want to, increase it beyond 100, 200, $150 an hour, you have to learn some niche technology. Today, that would be AI or Web3. Back then, it was WebRTC. So that's how I increase my price to these amounts. I have 6 years of, okay, so seems like a personal question, but I'll still ask, but like preferably answer questions for everyone. Ask questions that can benefit everyone. I have 6 years of experience in the software development industry. I'm currently transitioning to remote roles, upskilling in the Mun stack and contributing to open source. My current offer is 25 LPA. What is realistic application? So expectation for a remote job? Good question. 6 years of experience, which means, again, just go back here. You are probably senior engineer, which means, 100K. If you're currently making 25 LPA, then you should be okay with 80K as well. I think it's still a pretty big jump. But 6 years of experience, don't ask for intern salary, don't ask for junior salary, at least ask for mid and above. So 80K, the company can give. If you are good, company would not mind paying you 80K US dollars as long as you're good at the Mun stack. Of course, I mean, they'll try to squeeze you, but like they'll be okay with 80K. If you ask them 80K, the reason you are getting rejected is not because you asked for too much money. It might be because of lack of, skills or whatever, but not because of money. Can you make a video on how to pay taxes at remote software in India? It is the same. I have made a video on this, by the way. But generally the answer is the same. You can just save some money, but you have to make sure the money that you're saving is going away as expenses, and the expenses are actual real business expenses. So 44AD or 44ADA is what you should Google. It's a law, but only applies if the money that you're getting, you're actually, giving it to someone, paying other employees, which, you're paying your brothers, your sisters, your mothers as employees. They're actually working with you, coding with you, है ना? तो ये सब चीजें होती हैं. So we can talk, but like usually good idea to consult a CA and they will help you out. Do we need DSA as a Kubernetes engineer? Front-end role also on these platforms. So firstly, front-end roles are on these platforms, like I'm assuming you mean talent networks. And do we need DSA as a Kubernetes engineer? The answer is maybe, depends on the interview process. Whenever we hire DevOps people, we do not ask DSA for sure. It's a very different skill set, and DSA is not something that's needed. I'm a full stack developer. 3 years experience. I want to work with AI ML. What course or language should I learn so I can understand logic and start making contributions? Step 1 is Python. Step 2 is Pandas, TensorFlow, and NumPy. And then step 3 start hota hai. But firstly, these 2 things is where I would spend most of my time. Python is like bare minimum thing you need to know before you're getting into like machine learning or AI. Time management for doing both 2 clients on and talent at the same time. So the thing is, if you are good at something, now it's easy to manage. Our job, software development, it's very easy for you to spend twice the amount of time doing something if you don't have like very standard practices. For example, let's say hot reloading is a thing, right? Which means if you change your code, it immediately changes on the website. So you can be very fast. If your website for some reason does not have hot reloading, literally you going to your code, changing it, coming back here, refreshing the page, and going down 2 pages to the screen that you changed it, and then keep doing that can make you twice as unproductive. So what I've seen is, as long as you're a productive engineer, no one will bat an eye if you're slightly slower, because it's very hard to be tell whether this task would take an hour or 5 hours. At least you have the leeway of being like half as slow, which is why it's easy to manage 2 jobs. Of course, then you have to be really on your toes, extremely productive, and only then would this arrangement work out. Ideas for indie hacking. If I would have known them, I would have made an indie hacking business and been very rich. There are people who do it. There's a website, indiehacker.com, something like that only. Indiehacker.gg, I think. You have to read stories there, understand niches and how people do it. I don't know how people do it. It's pretty good. I would love to do it, but I have done it. So it does not make too much sense for me to give advice on this. Considering the first job and remote work, targeting 10 LP in the next 2 months seems reasonable. Considering first job and remote work, 10 LP in a remote job is fairly humble. It's probably a little too humble. If you are charging that much, maybe join as an intern. Tell them I want to join as an intern, and then my expectation is whatever, $15,000. Full-time employee, if you ask that much. If you only ask $15,000, it's a little yellow flag. Talent network versus open source contributions versus freelancing. Your suggestion for a working profession, open source. Number 1, open source. Number 2, talent network. Number 3, freelancing. I have 38 LPA base right now. I am pretty good full stack engineer with 3 years of experience in engineering. What should I ask? So you have basically 50K US already. I would at least ask 80K. Hopefully it's a decent jump for you, gives you a remote job, and you save some taxes as well. Because 80K US is slightly less than 50 LPA, which means 44 ADA does apply to you. So I think 80K is a decent number to ask. If you want, you can go the 6-figure route. If you already make 50K, yeah, I'd probably go with 80K. That's probably short and sweet answer here. I have worked for 2.4 years as an IT assistant. I don't get interview opportunities because I don't have relevant experience. I have completed BCA from tier 3 college. What should I do? So there is this endless circle of, oh, I have no experience. That's why no one's giving me an interview. No one's giving me an interview. Hence, I don't have an experience. Hai na? So this cycle will never end. The way you've written your message, and this is something I want to talk about tomorrow as well, is that you don't have to look desperate. You don't want to look desperate. You want to provide value. You are here to provide value. You give them full heart. Make it, this is how I can provide value. I am charging X. Make sure X is less, but वो पछतावा नहीं दिखना चाहिए तुम्हारी आवाज में. You shouldn't sound desperate. Desperate is not the right word. In need for a job. We should be casual. The one thing that people miss when they approach me and other companies, especially when I'm seeing they're from India, please assign this issue to me. Or, can I work on this issue, please? Why have you not looked at my pull request? I've made this XYZ change. Can you check? Very persistent. Chill. The one thing that sort of our country, like developers here miss, is like too desperate for immediately give it to me. Just focus on the work, be very standard, and keep your salary okay. I want this. This is my work. If you want it, cool. If not, it's all good. I'll approach you back again in 6 months. This is one mentality. If you take one thing from the course, and if you don't already do this, is that you are here to provide value. This is how you provide value. Be very professional, and you don't need them is the general attitude you keep. You may need them. You may very desperately need them. You shouldn't show that to them. You should show them you're here to provide value. You should brush up your English skills a little bit. You should talk professionally, and that is step one. That is how you get an interview. See the reject if you're going to be like, hello, sir, I have been always wanting to work at your company. I have zero experience, but I can provide a lot of value. I'm happy to work for free. Red flag. I will work for X. This is the value I'll provide. If not, it's totally fine. If they ask what's your experience, you tell. Otherwise, you don't tell. Na? If you graduate in 2019, you can twist some way. I work here. I did freelancing projects of my own. I did my own open source projects. For someone like you, I would look at their GitHub first. Are they making actual contribution somewhere? Chalo, even if they took a break, I don't care. No one asks, where did you work from? Beach mein ek saal ka gap kyun? No one really cares about that. So yeah, just keep your head down and focus is what I'll say basically. What if the company sells at below strike price? You're fucked. In fact, it might sell above strike price. You still might get fucked. Why? Because the share that you get is what's called common stock. The shares that investors get is what's called preferred stock. Let's say, if the company raised $50 million at a $500 million valuation and ended up selling at $100 million, us $100 million mein se, first, you would expect that the investor owns 10%. He put 50%, $50 million at a $500 million valuation, which means he owns 10%. If the company sold at 200 or let's say $100 million, he should get back $10 million because he owns 10%. But he owns preferred stock, which means if the company sells at $100 million, first the investor gets paid his $50 million. फिर जो बचता है 50 million, उसमें से the investor gets paid, the founder gets paid, you get paid. Basically, when you join a company, the worst idea to join a company during a bull run. Or like take equity during a bull run because prices are inflated. Best idea to take equity during the bear runs, which we're currently in. As long as you ask them what is your fair market value, because everyone's fair market value is down right now, and your strike price is that their current fair market value. When the bull comes, is when your equity will be worth much more. I'm working from Toronto. The global salary band would also apply to me. Good question. I think they would apply to Canada. They may not apply to the US, but Canada. So you can maybe ask 20% more. But from what I know from friends that work at Canada, I think this is good salary in Canada as well. So short and sweet answer is this might be the same. If you're in the US, it's a little different. But other than that, it's or like Singapore, some very expensive country. Canada and India probably it will be the same. Okay, I am planning my career for the next 2 to 3 years of Web3. I answered this. So to start and join these talent networks, is MERN-Stack sufficient? MERN-Stack is the most popular stack in these talent networks. Aajkal, there is a little bit of AI there. They want a lot of AI engineers. During the Web3 bull run, they wanted a lot of Web3 engineers. MERN-Stack is usually very common. It might happen you have to be like a React specialist or a React native specialist to get your increase your probability of getting hired. But MERN is like pretty popular in these talent networks. For some reason, startups love MERN, which means a lot of startups with the MERN stack come to these guys, which is why these networks need a lot of MERN stack engineers. Nowadays, resumes are filtered by keywords. I am from non-CS background, which comes normally as a criteria. So how should I get over that? I mean, I frankly cannot answer this. There's no easy answer I have to this. It is just that when you're applying to remote companies, you don't really send your resume. You send your GitHub and you're like, hey, I worked here. I have 4 years of experience. Looked at your company. Seems like you're doing this. I've been a backend engineer. I've worked on similar problems. Would love to talk. That's how the conversation begins versus, applying for giving your resume somewhere. So the short answer here is you don't really give your resume. You give your GitHub when you're in a remote job. How much time usually we can take to resolve an issue in open source? It depends on what if it's taking time for me. It will take time. It depends on the issue, and also it depends on how comfortable you are with the code base. If you keep working on the code base for like 10 days, 11th day you'll get more comfortable. If you keep working on it for 2 months, is when you get like super comfortable with it. So of course, if you are looking at a fresh repository, even if I look at a fresh repository today, it will be difficult for me to understand it. So it's never easy. Not supposed to be easy. That's why it's the hard part that makes a lot of money. So there's no like right or wrong answer here. It takes everyone different times. The thing to focus on here is that you spend a lot of time solving them. If you spend a lot of time solving issues, you'll get a lot of context of the code, and then your time goes down. The registration link you are trying to access is expired. You will be redirected to the registration page in 3 seconds. What is that? What link did I send? Raj, when I open chat, can you repeat the question? DSA nahi aata, then you should solve DSA. Can you share all your assignments? Sure. I mean, I cannot share them as such. That's some law that will prevent me. I can share some variation of it for sure. It's actually great feedback. Please tell again about DSA. Okay, I think I answered that. What if I answered that? So if in 1 year, okay. So in one, answered that. मैं ऊपर आ गया हूँ क्या? I am currently working at a pre-launch startup as a front-end developer intern. Pre-launch startup, okay. It is currently unpaid. Oof. Should I continue free for some time? No, sir. You asked for salary yesterday. You don't work for free ever. No matter the startup, no matter who, what. No, you are charged at least some humble wage, dude. Like it is 30K INR per month, so anyone can give, or 20K INR per month, so interns should be given, right? If a company is not giving that, it's major red flag. Don't work, leave tomorrow. Do we need DS? Oh, हो गया था. Please tell them not to come out of network. Lost $2,000 last year, still haven't recovered from it. Please tell them not to come out of network. Could you repeat that again, Mohit, when the chat opens? Never went to college, does not matter. Need a referral. We're finding people. I think Vignesh, I've seen you around, so I'm happy to refer you. But again, TopTal is waitlisting everyone from India, so most probably won't help unless you're not from India. Then might help. The Canada people can definitely ask for a referral. You guys might get in. Or like Singapore, one of my friends got in. Can you make a video on how to pay? I think I've done that. Stack Overflow. Bhaiya, can you talk about the first step? About the first step? What does that mean? Could you repeat that question? Sorry, Hemant. Can you share? I've done that. Right. All right. All right. ठीक है. First set of questions have been answered. Going to open chat one more time. Let's try to ask questions that benefit everyone. Generate questions on remote jobs from India or other places. Chat open है. बहुत सारे questions आ गए हैं. Pause. Oh boy. What should I do to intern in USA? Not remote. You want to work in the US. It's hard. Not hard to get visas and figure those things out. Just for no, because I want to know in the course. So from what I can understand, your question is how can you work in the US not remotely? And the answer there is you have to go through a lot of processes. Most probably, if you want to do that, you have to go for a master's. That's the easiest way to go there. Bro, I got 4 LAMP stack projects from IIT Bombay while being in the course coded, shipped all 4. Will that count in any way if I want to go for my first remote job? Yeah, put it there. Maybe don't mention it from IIT Bombay. Say it was a remote job, and then explain whatever you did, your stack. It's actually pretty good if you've coded 4 LAMP stack projects, then find an open source company that has that stack, and then you'll be pretty comfortable contributing to it. How do you know you are ready for a remote job or to join a talent network? I knew Merge before, but TypeScript, GraphQL, TRPC were new to me. How much should we expect to get paid? I only have 6 months internship experience, which wasn't a good internship in terms of learning. Okay. So yeah, if you know all of these things, if your DSA skills are brushed up, it's a decent time to apply. I would personally wait for a few months and till the market recovers to apply. But purely in terms of knowledge, if you've done everything, if you understand everything that we've done until now, and you can code it yourself, and maybe the things that we do in the next 4 weeks, where we'll actually look at open source projects, then yeah, it's a decent point too. Then there's a little bit of luck and all those things to getting in, but you can apply them. Some alphas for final year undergrads on campus have been very poor this year. 7-8 LPA with very few intakes. Short and sweet answer is that is one way. Maybe take an offer there and then I would take this intern salary somewhere and start there. If what you're getting in your college is 7 LPA, 30K US is much more than that. So I would join as an intern somewhere. Easy to do, much easier than a full-time employee because you're getting paid less and there's no contractual obligations on an intern. So I would start applying as an intern in companies, in these remote companies. SIS blockchain problem statement are good for hyperdrive, such as on-chain certificate verification using CNFTs. Sounds like a great idea. I would do it, and I would pitch it very well as to why this is very useful in India. And I think this may be able to win Ash. So all the best to you, sir or ma'am. And then I hope you win or like at least get some prize. Once I'm in the talent network company, can I freelance outside the network? Yeah, you can. The reason I ask is that I'm planning to build an agency. Somewhere in the future, yeah, you basically can. Of course, you cannot take the clients that those guys introduced you outside to your agency, but yeah, other than that, you can. Bro, okay, ho gaya. If we are applying to companies' careers page, it's hard to get your resume shortlisted. Can you please share a resume template that really works? Also, ATS platform, which is good for us to understanding resume score. So I've never used any of these. Neither have I used resume templates. I just have a simple, white page resume. It might be the case what you're saying. You probably think it might be true. They have screeners, but I literally have no template as such. All I can say here is that of course you will get filtered there. And if there's a place where 20,000 people are applying with like just resumes, of course, even some good people get filtered out. That's probably not how you want to apply. How you want to apply is be very good at something and mail the HR. Yeah. You look like a 3D company. I've worked at 3D startups in the past, built this project. I would like to join or I would like to contribute. They don't need to look at your resume. They need to know you're very good at a certain technology that they need today very desperately. That's how you get hired at remote jobs. Not, this is my generic India resume, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 college, CGPA, 2 college projects, and whatever ICPC gaya tha, they don't, of course you'll get screened out there. You have to give a very specific pitch on an email to either an HR or a CTO, not to a jobs portal. I have never done that. What if you don't get into any talent networks? Then what? Then you either go to Upwork, Fiverr, which are open for everyone, or you go on the remote job path, right? You directly apply to a company to not have a middleman in the middle. I'd like to know your thoughts on best approach for authentication. The first option involves checking the status code of 401 on the front end to detect if an expired access token. In this scenario, we'd make a call with the refresh token to obtain a new token and then retry the initially failed call. Sounds right. On the other hand, the second option suggesting handling it in the backend and checking the expiration time. This will generate a new token and without sending the failed response. The second is how it's usually done, which is the backend realizes this access key has, usually the way I've done it in the past is I always send both access and refresh to the backend. And then if access is expired, we use the refresh to refresh the access token and then send it back in the cookies. But in every request, both access and refresh are going, not just access. If you want to just send access, then yes, at some point, if you're getting close to the expiry, you send back new access tokens that gets refreshed. Socket.io class, simple hai, happy to cover it. There are a bunch of videos. I would rather cover a bunch of more difficult things. What difficult things, Harkirat? My next video is coming. My next video on YouTube has first part very simple things, second part difficult things, third part very difficult things. Let's do something from there. Socket.io is simple. Still, if people want it, I'm happy to cover it. But again, fairly simple stuff. Already out there, 100 tutorials. I think you can figure it out. But again, if you want me to, I'll happy to do it. Isn't there a web dev track in hackathon? I don't think so. I don't think it's a web dev track. Web3 may web dev. Every project needs to have web dev. So there's no real web dev track there. Please share if someone wants to apply for remote jobs in SaaS startups, roles like customer success, implementation engineer. I don't have too much idea of this. I do know companies have back offices in India, but they don't pay as much. For example, my company was trying to find customer support engineers in India, so the salary wasn't too much. It was like the reason they were going to India is because their back offices for customer support, and people don't get paid much. So yeah, I highly advise is probably don't do that. If you want to do it, the salary difference won't be too much between what you're getting currently in a remote job. When will Web3 Part 2 come? Great question, Jatin. Whiteboard to I'm thinking of record. And the thing I want to record is Solana development so that people who learn from it actually can apply to the hackathon, but just not getting the time, unfortunately. We'll see. How can we receive payments in a bank account? What type of bank account is suitable for transaction? Basically, any bank account. India will gladly accept US dollars. The country banks love dollars coming into the country, so don't even worry about this. Any bank account will let you put in money. It's purely about who gives you the best price, which like the big banks will. So HDFC, ICICI, Access are pretty good. Any path for data engineers looking remote jobs in this trust field, or should I switch to AI ethics? I don't have a lot of idea about data engineering. If you are thinking of switching, I would switch to AI today, not to web. You can switch to web as well. But again, the clearer path, the less competition path is AI. How do you manage consulting while informing your current full-time job? How do you convince your employer? Don't it have a negative impression. So when you join is when you tell them, I'm good at this and I do get clients and I run a consultancy where I've been doing this for a while. So the expectation is sort of set from the beginning. He has a consultancy, he does this for a living, and we are just one of his clients versus this being his full-time job. How cracking GSOC will help me crack remote offer? So few ways it helps is talent networks will gladly accept you if you've done GSOC. It gives you like a pseudo remote work experience. So they asked me when I was joining one of these networks, have you done remote work? I said I haven't done remote work exactly, but I've done GSOC, which is remote and a 4-month internship. I would inflate that to like 5-month internship. So they were like, that sounds good. Okay, pretty close to remote job. Like, yeah. So that's where it helps. Advice on not being desperate also works on people as well as companies. As in companies shouldn't be desperate, probably. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I see a few founders are hackathon judges. Is there a chance that they will hire from a hackathon? Probably not. I mean, so the question that you're answering, and probably the answer is no. Hackathons are for you are doing this independently and you might do it into a business. So usually you won't people don't get hired by a hackathon, at least Solana hackathon. Have you recorded locally on OBS? I have. Oh, fucking A. Fucking A. I have not, but thankfully we have a Zoom recording. Boy, oh boy. Thank you, Lokeshwar. I have not. Shoot, I don't know how. I was originally streaming. I think that's why I forgot. But yeah, I guess it's fine. We have the Zoom recording. So Slido, I think for tomorrow we'll need Slido. Somehow I got 3 clients from a Discord group that were hiring for freelance work. Then I had an interview with them. One of them gave me an assignment of a merge tag tic-tac game, which I made and I got the review about my submission that my coding style structure was not good. Okay, I would urge you to share your tic-tac-toe game. I can tell you the red flags there. One client told me to give a GitHub repo, which I'm proud that, but at the time I did not have any. Now, how do that? It happened with me 3-4 times and it tips for me. So This is the chicken and egg problem, right? They ask you, have you done something in GitHub? You're like, no, I never got an offer. You're like stuck in the loop. For the next few months, you have learned a lot. So many assignments we have done here. Have you tried open sourcing any of them? Did you create a Merge project in TRPC and put it out there? Have you written TypeScript code, simple Merge application in Tailwind and TypeScript and put it out there? These are the things that compound so well during a bull run. I am a senior engineer. I have been doing this for years. Why is your motivation only when I get a job will I start contributing? It should be contributing day zero. I'm doing it without focusing on the outcome. Then in these cases, you'll realize, thank fucking God, a year ago, I was just coding. I did the whatever Kiev's course, and then I coded 10 different things, put them on GitHub. They will help you here. Send your Munstack tic-tac-toe game. I can probably just tell you the red flags there. Was it in TypeScript? Would be my first question. Did you use Canvas to render the game? If you used React, I would look at re-rendering a lot here. Was it a multiplayer game? How did you handle WebSockets? Did you use Socket? Did you use raw WebSockets? Did you use something else? Writing all of these down comes with experience. Don't wait for companies to tell you to build projects. Build them yourself. You have the complete stack on here on the internet everywhere. Start building, pushing them on GitHub. On days like these, when you have 3 offers, is when you'll be happy that you had getting the offer is the most difficult thing. Everything else is in your hand. You got 3 of them. So yeah, be careful and spend some time pushing projects and like good quality projects. All right, love the cohort. I'm far ahead from where I was when I started. Can someone in the US, Canada apply jobs here? How can someone in the US, Canada apply for jobs here? Any parking says that. So Pranav, the cohort is like very, the biggest benefit is for someone who is from India, has India offers, and you able to get offers there. If you're already in the US, they're like FANG US pays a lot. That's like one good path to go down. A bunch of other startups in the US pay a lot. If you still want a remote offer, you should know, these bands are great for India, maybe Canada, and maybe other, developing countries. You might be able to get much more because you're going on site. So I don't know if I would do this. If you want to still do this, these are the bands you should expect. And the advice is the same. You probably have an edge over, someone applying from India because, you have the same time zone, probably an American accent that helps. But yeah, my general advice would be, if you are already there, why not take an on-site job in FANG or whatever, make probably much more than what a remote job can pay you. Because unless you're really good in either some niche or like in full stack, it's hard to get like, 200K plus offers or 300K plus offers. But FANG US can give you those kind of numbers easily. I have 1.5 years experience in Wipro and 3-year gap right now due to personal reasons. What I learned in this course is enough to at least start to look for jobs? And the answer is yes. The question really is, there are a bunch of people here, bunch of people have learned a few things. The people who will do really well are people who are now writing projects on their own, pushing them, and the quality of their project, the quality of their code is much high. That is how you win. That is how you differentiate. And if this course, when there are X people, I can probably say in writing, until now, maybe 0.3%, like 30% of the people have actually started coding themselves and deploying things. Usme se maybe 3% are, deploying it at a quality which I would look and be like, wow, maza aaya. So you have to start approaching that 3%. You have to complete all the things that have been done. You have to start coding things yourself. You have to start learning technology yourself and pushing all of it out there, writing clean code. Then in the top 3%, if you're in the top 3% of this batch, you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about how to get there. You just need that one interview and then you're sorted. I am in cloud data engineering, but I have a lot of interest in full stack. Can I do both? Learn both freelancing for both? Is it possible or is it too much of a commitment? I don't know if it's too much of a commitment. It's a commitment. It's hard to be really good at 2 things. If I was you, I would choose one. You can make 200K as a data engineer. You can make 200K as a full stack engineer. You can make 10K in 2 places, but does not make sense, right? It's always a good idea to go deep in one rather than, do naam mein pair rakhne wali baat ho jati hai. It's like putting 2 feet in 2 different boats. In cloud, is it possible to have all 3 exposures like GCP, AWS, Azure I am currently on Azure, but what would you suggest to be super versatile in the field? You don't have to know every, but you should know the popular ones. And GCP and AWS are, from what I know in startups, AWS is the most popular one. Then maybe GCP, Azure, I think no one uses. People who do use it because they get some credits for it from it. So I would definitely move to at least AWS and focus very strongly there. Jumping from 50K to 300K doesn't require specialization or niche or a generic career path like mine is rewarding. Good question. That is a good question. I would say 150K, 200K. Beyond 200K from India as a stack engineer, unless you're you're really good. You're doing optimizations at that point. Making the front end code faster. You're not an application developer really. You're like the platform engineer or what do you call it? Developer. There is one job role कि you are the bap of everyone. You know the code base completely. You clean people's shit and you put out practices कि this is how the company will do TypeScript from today. These are our ESLint rules. You tell people, every pull request you're there telling people कि this is not our pattern, this is our pattern. If you're that person, then yes. If you're just writing code on a day-to-day basis, then not. Beyond 200K from India is difficult. All right, live QA. Thank you, Satish Kumar. I will look at that. Completed college in May. Currently, no job. Don't know how much DSA. Don't know much MERN. No, don't know much DSA. I do know MERN. JavaScript only. Pretty decent in React. Did an internship that was unpaid. Please don't do internship like unpaid internships, guys. Also, have a basic pull shark achievement in unlocked in GitHub. I don't know if it will help or not. Let me tell you, it will not help. I have no idea what a pull shark achievement is. Does not sound very a thing smart engineers would do. What should I mean, I could be wrong here. See, but I don't think so. I don't think it's that thing helps. Or like the biggest yellow flag I see here is you said I'm comfortable in JavaScript, not TypeScript yet. So that is the first thing you need to conquer. What should be the first thing that needs to be done? Some internship, DSA, looking for job, trying open source. First thing should be DSA and trying to get into FANG. That's the easier, maybe not today, but like generally that's like a standard path. If you only have to do one thing amongst two, one thing, then you don't have a job right now. I would first just, get a 5 to 10 LPA job, which happens through like, the standard DSC and moving to Bangalore, all that jazz. Then you think about these things. Because it feels like you're doing a lot of things, but not doing one thing very deep. To go deep into one thing, I think initially the most rewarding thing might be DSA. 2 questions. Where do you find full-time remote opportunities for the person who already has 4 years of experience? You either find them on the job board of a company, you find them on GitHub from, a company that has recently raised money, you find them on Twitter. That's really it for remote companies. Or you find them through your network, like your friend is working somewhere, they refer you. Can I include both my full-time job GitHub and my personal GitHub on my resume? Because my job GitHub is much nicer than my personal one. So the thing is, your job GitHub is going to be, it will probably be private contributions, which means you can't really see much from it. I would urge you, if you have a personal GitHub, keep that active as well, because no one can really look at your private contributions, so they don't know what you're doing, and the green doesn't matter. You can just be like, when the interview comes, you'll be like, I have a different GitHub on my company as an internal BCS. That's where I contribute. But yeah, generally, your personal GitHub should also have some flair. Which means keep contributing to open source from time to time. How to prepare for system design basics? Good question. So the answer is, जो remote work वाला system design है, उसके लिए तो it's a lot of practice and building systems. You build systems, you learn. That's what you tell them because these interviews are so ad hoc. Okay, the CTO will come and be like, this is what we're struggling with today. Do you have an answer to this? And then you figure it out with him. But if you ask him about the FANG system design, it's like standard problems you do, bunch of YouTubers, bunch of courses, bunch of free stuff, whatever you want to do. Yeah, take standard advice. What would be a suggestion for final year student? It would be to enjoy. It's like the general advice for a final year. If you're in final year, this is your last year to enjoy. If you're purely talking about jobs, it usually, as I said, is DSA, get the first X offer in a FANG or wherever, startup in India, and then you start looking for remote work. That's the general advice. Why don't I get any talent network? Then what? I think I answered that. Is how AWS is important. So, short answer, AWS is very important. Probably the most popularly used cloud service in startups. Learning LLM full stack as a fresher, but mediocre in both. after some time and can continue what I'm doing, or should I give up one? You should give up one. Generally, don't learn two difficult technologies at the same time. And if I was you, I don't know, if you're smart, you can pick things up faster, then go into machine learning deep. If you're like, I'm not a prodigy, I'm here for the money, slowly learning, then web development, get your first offer there and then move to machine learning if you feel like it. You said these talent agencies are strict. So how many chances do we get? I mean, so they officially say you can reapply after 6 months, but it's always there on your, you know, resume or whatever. They know that you've been rejected in the past. So I don't know. I don't know how it happens internally, but they officially say you can only reapply after 6 months. How to get freelancing clients without having projects, but someone who has done GSOC and good contribution projects. How to get freelancing clients without having projects, but someone who has done GSOC and good contribution profile. Okay, so you've done GSOC before. I would still urge you to create projects. Just because you've done GSOC does not mean you're great engineer, because like GSOC is a little faddy, if I'm being honest. Maybe there are dumb people who can get in, there are smart people who don't get in. So just having GSOC is probably not enough. I'd probably do other things. Yeah, I mean, which means contribute to actual real projects. How important is it to remove fresher tag? Remove it. No one cares. Currently, a fresher, which, as I said, my brother is in third year. He did not mention that anywhere. Like software engineer looking for a job role. Khatam. इसके आगे कुछ नहीं जरूरत नहीं है. What is a fresher, dude? Who defines what defines a fresher? Is it like a person who's never worked before? If you get big projects, it's fine. You don't technically have to be named as a fresher. So yeah. All right. Let's rush through these. Is it true that there's a referral given? There is a direct interview? No coding. No, that is not true. No. Even big companies, small companies, talent networks, and a referral doesn't guarantee anything. Any specific advice for the people who completed their degree working on other fields and are now trying to enter programming? Short advice is always DSA first, data structures and algorithms, and getting good at a language, understanding languages, understanding programming, knowing what programming languages are, what are algorithms. Then moving to web development, preferably the MERN stack, getting really good at it. Then getting a job and then thinking what you have to do next. So initial advice is always data structures and algorithms. Your advice on not being desperate also works. Okay, so answer that. How to negotiate effectively if you already have a good package? So yeah, if in India you have X, so yeah, you can ask for 50% more than that, which means if someone here they mentioned they had 50K offer already, 50K US dollars in India, so I would at least ask for 80K, 75K US dollars, bump it up by 50% and then go from there. All right. I am planning to learn AI, but I am interested in data science jobs. I think I'm not good at numbers. What do you think AI? What about, I mean, AI ML engineering jobs are good. They're like the best thing today, but like depends on how good you are, depends on 10 different factors. So yeah, it depends on how smart you are. If you're a smart person, you can understand machine learning quickly in the next 4 to 5 months, then yes, I would go with ML. Else I'd go with the standard route. I live in Canada, but I get a referral. Depends on how, there are a bunch of factors on the basis of which we're finding people. Which are like, have they done the projects correctly, assignments, their engagement, Twitter, all that jazz. So based on that, I've applied to Turing and cleared the written test, but haven't heard from them. Yeah, Turing is also a good platform. I don't know if it's a good platform. It's a platform that does the same thing. Please review my GitHub. Coder Girl 2023. Okay, let's see. Yes. So, I mean, first initial thoughts are like, please put a photo here. Mention who you are, where you've studied. I see a few maybe not folks. There are folks. You don't see any, so this is the place I would look at. It looks like all of these are personal projects. None of these personal projects look popular. So I'll look at their code base. So I look at their lead code turbo repo and start to look at it. I'd probably, this is like, I understand you did not change the readme, probably change the readme. And then go to, let's see. So this is how I would basically, begin to look at someone's GitHub and then Mild yellow flag, not implemented, but that's fine. Maybe those for some reason I would look for a live link here. What does this look like? Seems like there's no live link here. So I would, you're doing a project. I'm pretty impressed by the fact that you have a turbo repo project. You can create mono repos. You have two different apps, but like it's not deployed, so I don't know what they look like. It's pretty empty at the moment. Let's see, UI components, drawer component. Code looks okay, but like this is a yellow flag. You don't usually put this anywhere. Code looks a little too janky. You shouldn't use local storage in production. Which means you should cookies. Sorry, you should use cookies. What I was saying. Yeah, other than that, not bad. Maybe you would structure these, as independent components. This would be an independent component. It should be an independent component, and then this should be more readable. It should be like, okay, if user email is null, question mark, user render, else, sign up render or whatever. So these are the small, basically, I understand that this person is a junior-ish engineer is what my initial thoughts would be. Then I would give them an assignment if I had to, hire them. क्योंकि yeah, it's a little देख के समझ आ रहा है कि they don't either write this for a living because like I can see not too many contributions, but at the same time, looking at the code, it feels one little empty, two, it's not structured very well. All right. Is it true by structured? I meant like components are not broken down into smaller components, the thing that I was talking about. Is it true that if there is a referral given, does it, okay, answered that. Any specific advice for the people who completed other degrees? I think I answered that. All right. Currently in college, things in mind, MERN stack, DSA, Web3, AI, ML, GSOC, open source. Can you sort them in order? Okay. Order is number 1 DSA if you're a complete beginner. Number 2 GSOC is time pay because you get a real experience, all that jazz. So DSA and GSOC I would keep top priority. Maybe at this time GSOC top priority and then DSA after that, unless you have like interviews coming. So GSOC, DSA at the top, maybe MERN somewhere there close by because what will you contribute to in GSOC if you don't know MERN? So maybe MERN and GSOC at the very top, then DSA, then AI, and then AI ML, and then Web3. If you're applying for a company on careers page, is it hard to get resume? I think I answered that. All right. 18 LPA base with 2 years of experience, didn't have any open source contributions, didn't have any portfolio website showcase, never did DSA seriously until now. But in my current company, I am a good full stack developer, React plus Spring Boot. What should is start DSA open source? What should I start? DSA open source, build portfolio websites. If you're that good, you're leading your whatever company, 18 LP is a decent package. I would definitely not learn DSA now. I would either go into other stacks, start contributing to Java open source projects, Spring Boot open source projects, or start learning MERN stack. One of these things. I would not learn DSA at this point. 18 LP ke baad, DSA does not help too much. You talked about making your own API spec file for their interview. Is this expected? This is not expected. It was not written somewhere. I did it because I wanted to have like the Swagger page that gives you all the endpoints that you can hit to impress them a little bit more. It was not told for them to there's something you need to do. Okay, I think I answered that. Very important. Please read. Okay, which MERN project should I create to get a job on the basis of the MERN stack? Beautiful question. So Coder Girl 2023 created a decent project here. Lead code is a great project. Why? It has a bunch of components. The backend front. Yeah. Oh, it was a different one. A mono repo for lead code, which has the admin front end where the admins can create problems, the user front end where users can submit problems, the code judge that can actually judge the problems, open source written in TypeScript. The MERN stack we've learned until now is a pretty good project. Deployed on the internet, maybe use Tailwind for styling. Pretty good project. That is your answer right there. A lead code like project, a project that has simple front end, maybe 2-3 front ends, single layer, 2 back ends, but has like one extra layer, something extra, which in case of lead code is the coding judge. In case of Zerodha is the order book. In case of slides.com is if I add something here, it reaches the other side automatically, like a WebSocket connection. So that is an ideal thing to target. How do you manage consulting? Okay, that ho gaya. My job related work is specific. My job related work is specific to embedded. I want to switch to Munstack job. So far, I have few personal projects. Will my 9 to 5 job be of any relevance when it comes to mentioning a resume? Short answer is no. It won't be of any relevance. If you're applying for a Munstack job, if you've done like something that's not, close to creating websites in the past, or like, writing backend, writing contents. Hi is working and contributing in a company code base like GS, like Goldman Sachs, similar to what open source is. If yes, can you expand on this? No, it's a little. So GS specific is a weird example, but like any big company, which includes GS, Google, working there is much different than working in a full stack project, like an open source project. Why? Because they have very usually old code bases written a few years ago in very old patterns, old languages, very hard to move. Google Docs could, if you have to re-architect Google Docs, is really hard. They move very slowly, and the stack is very archaic a bunch of times. So it's very different from a fresh open source project that moves very quickly. All right, I think I answered that. GSOC for remote offer, just contributions. You know the Munstack now. Hopefully, if you've done all the videos, start contributing. You have enough context to contribute to the PCIGS editor that I've talked about on YouTube. So start contributing. It's the short and sweet advice. All right. Just going to answer one last question here. Sorry, I see a few of them, but like I have to call it very soon. Remote job versus H1B offer. For me, remote job. For you, could be H1B. Personal choice whether or not you want to move to the US. What do you suggest to get a job if notice period is 3 months after offering? Companies are expected to join soon. So remote job does not matter. You do your full-time job, you do the other job, you tell them, okay, I'll be shuffling, eventually I'll leave. Generally, if a company has a 3-month notice period, it's a pretty big red flag. Ask them to decrease it, or like, just leave right now, and then hopefully you have 3 months to find out, because this is an endless circle of you'll never be able to leave the company. Are you going to stop the support for the Munstack code after the final session? I am happy to extend it. We can have a few TAs, maybe not as many, but like a few TAs can be available for like whatever 2-3 more months, and yeah, you guys can talk to them. Which language would you prefer? Suggest for DSA someone starting from scratch and solely focus on web dev and Munstack. Which language would you prefer? For DSA, I would always prefer C++, even though you're doing the Munstack, but like companies, your fallback is Fang or like whatever an offer in India, which the engineers there expect you to write C++ code. Don't we have to know about Web3 Part 2 participants from Hackathon? Short answer is yes. I do have a Solana series on my YouTube channel, so you can go there. If you go back 8 months ago to my channel, there is a 8 video long series, enough context for you to write smart contracts. I am currently in final year looking for a traditional job where I can get 15 LPA, working on DSA for that. Great. I like that. That is such nice actionable. I'm looking for a traditional job, 15 LPA. I'm working on DSA for that. Beautiful. What would you recommend? Going for a remote job or traditional job? Looking at, you had very sane statements there, Abhishek. Ready for that? You should follow that and get that 15 LPA offer using DSA. Then you move to remote offers. Don't do two things. I love this mentality and this is great, and I think you should follow it. Can we expect any alphas for us to get in the industry like traditional companies? In tomorrow's video. So not in tomorrow's videos, but let's say, frankly, tomorrow what I'll be talking about won't be like too fancy of companies. So remote work, very big Web3 company, 200K offer. It'll be fairly humble. So basically, yes, tomorrow what I'll talk about, it'll be like sort of a traditional company only, even though it will be remote. How much DSA minimum topics and questions that might be required to get started? No idea, but like most people have seen sort of like 300, 400. I don't know. I have no idea. I've been doing approx 100K already, but in the DevOps cloud space, but with one exclusive client the last 2 years. Is it worth moving to dev? So DevOps usually pays more than dev. Do these talent networks have cloud architect jobs? They do. So yeah, TopTal has DevOps key roles. So yeah, you can definitely apply there. I think I'll have to call it there. Thank you, everyone. Great session. Tomorrow's session is going to be bigger, more actionable. I hope to see a few of you there. Sorry, I have to end it here, but hopefully it was insightful. You learned something new, and actionable advice just is applied to the Solana hackathon as soon as possible. Like maybe get some money there and be super happy if some of you do. Cool hai? All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Wow, many questions. Yeah, tomorrow let's do Slido, and then let's upvote on questions and then answer them. Right. Cool. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Sorry if I was not able to answer your question today. Tomorrow, let's be a little more organized and I'll try to answer them. Cool. Thank you. Bye bye. Oh my God, questions are rolling in. All right, let's do 5 more minutes. I'm going to answer these rapid fire. Fluency in English matters. Yes. I am fourth year student. Should I apply for GSOC? Yes. Did clubbing and partying in football and dropped out of CSC, wasted 3 years? You will be fine. Just start coding again. Currently, I'm data engineer, 1.5 experience, want to switch to pure SD job. Any guidance? It is code, or do the things you've done until now, do them better, put them out there on the internet, approach people and get a job. Did clubbing, okay. How do you find niche technologies to learn them? It's very clear. It's out in the open. Who's getting a lot of funding right now? AI. So what's the niche technology to work on today? AI. How many referrals matters? Someone has good connections. Referrals do matter, but like again, जिसका होना है उसका referral भी हो जाए, ऐसा नहीं होना उसका referral के साथ भी नहीं होगा. But now doesn't have much skill experience. हाँ, तो first focus on experience, then referrals may matter, but again, don't really matter too much. I have a really good startup idea. Ask 1,000 potential users. I want to do consulting for 10 minutes. Something. Vignesh, ले लो, Ruki से number ले लो. We can talk. All right. Getting into start with Web3 and Web3 masterclass. Maybe Web3 or yeah. Okay, sounds good. Web3 masterclass doesn't sound like the worst idea in the world. We can do it. All right. Did clubbing and partying? Oh, okay. How do we get out of tutorial hell? Code yourself. Start to code yourself. Start to learn new technologies yourself. एक GitHub review session अलग से कर लेते हैं. I'm more than happy to look at GitHubs. Cool. चलो बढ़िया. This will be the last one. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.